Okay. One, 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 two. Okay. One, one, two, one, two. One. Okay.
Is it working? Is it working? It's on. It's on. It's on. It's on. It's on.
Okay. So, one, 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 two, one, two.
Temperature. Now, we're facing a man-made disaster.
I've got a question to the Green Party person. I want to run past you. So the first question I thought I'll ask the Green Party person is, I have a very serious question for you. Are you greener than the Dagga Party?
That's a nice icebreaker.
Yeah. I think I need to try and break it up.
We don't have all the t-shirts here, you know, that where they get. Yeah, we said minimum 5. So otherwise, we said the public is the audience, the people are the audience. We don't want the political things to be the audience. So that the people can ask questions. I don't know how you're going to do in terms of asking questions to people. Just maybe to the side and to that side. And then
But you want people with roving rights?
yeah, we just clarify that. Sorry. The roving mics for people that when they want to speak. Yeah, we have one this side and one that side.
Do we have any like people that's with the organization?
That's it?
That's with the organization.
Are we ready to almost
Yeah.
start quieting down the members?
We're starting in 1 minute. Tell them Becca to quiet down.
Yeah.
Listen. We want one mic to be this side and one mic. Can you ask one from Project 90 and someone from to be this side? From where?
I'm Jeremy Acton.
Oh, yeah.
I'm representing the Dagga Party and ADEC Alliance.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming. Welcome.
Where do I
Please
stand?
have a seat. Please have a seat. All the political parties are this side. Right?
I'll just, if anyone more comes through, I'll bring them.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Don't scream at me. Don't scream at me. No, relax. No, relax. Calm down. Okay. Everything under control. Okay?
Shout Amanda, and then we're going to stop.
Yes. Okay. Amandla! Good afternoon, comrades. We're going to start in 60 seconds. We just want everybody to settle in. Can we make sure that all the political party representatives, there's some space for them this side. Everybody that's still outside, can some of the marshals just channel them inside, please? There's still some people outside that side. Okay. Just need a program. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Are you not environmental activists? Good afternoon, everybody. Great, great. Welcome to our public debate with our political parties, our political party dialogue on environment. You know, this event is historical in a sense that tomorrow would be the second year since the very, very historical nuclear court case has been won. And also Fukushima in Japan, where that horrific accident happened. So these environmental issues are real. That is also a month before Africa Day, and we could see how issues of climate change and the environment are beginning to show itself up. And this is not a once-off crisis, that is something that's going to continue. So we are here to make sure that we are having a dialogue and we're bringing our communities, our social movements, our NGOs, our civil society representatives, and people who are concerned and who love the environment. And the environment is not something out there. The environment is something we live in. It's not separate from people. It's not separate from our socioeconomic issues. Our socioeconomic rights will not be met if we do not have a safe and clean and sustainable environment. And that is why we are here tonight. We are asking the question. What is the question? Does your party care about the environment we live in? That is the question we are here today. And at the end, hopefully, those people who are still uncertain who they are voting for in the elections, that is not our aim to tell you how to vote for, but we just would like those people to be able to say, based on environment, if someone who cares about the environment, I now know after this debate who really cares about the environment, because they will be able to say, and we hope that it's not going to be empty promises, that it's actually going to be something that you're also passionate about, something that you really believe in, and something that you're committed to work towards. Whether you come in the elections or not. So this is probably something that we can continue speaking about and continue to make happen together. So welcome everybody here that decided yesterday or a month before the time that this is the place where you're going to be today. Some of you saw it on social media and say, hey, I want to be here as this whole place. We're squeezing everybody. Maybe later on we will still have people standing. But everybody who cares about the environment is welcome here today. So I want to just welcome you, and I want to introduce our moderator. He's the one that's going to stand here in front. I'm just making sure that you're all welcome. Kumi Naidu. Kumi Naidu is an old activist. He's not old, he's a long-time activist from the environment sector, socioeconomic rights, anti-apartheid movement. And he is currently working for the global organization Amnesty International. He's heading that organization. And he actually came from London. He's based in London, and he wanted to make sure that he is in South Africa. Maybe it's also for the Easter weekend. But we are glad that he's here with us today before he go back again. And so when he is home, and when you go to the global connection, they say local is global as well, eh? So he can take our messages back as well. So thank you, Kumi, for saying yes, that you will moderate for us. And he's also someone that knows the environment, so he'll be able to ask the right questions to our political parties. Thank you to every one of the political parties that said yes. Some of you on short notice that got your letter late because it was Easter weekend, and it's not Parliament is not on at the moment. So Kumi has also been very involved in the anti-nuclear campaign and is instrumental and on the cutting edge of that campaign. So we are very privileged to have that kind of caliber leader in the room that will moderate our debate for us. So welcome everybody, and I just want, before I go sit down and give over to Kumi, normally when we have party political debates, we want to compete who is best. But tonight, the best party is the party that's not going to boo or who the other one, eh? We are going to be respectful. We We are going to give everybody the right to full self-expression, and we're going to listen to what the other party said. Why? Simply because we are a democracy. I might not like what you stand for, I might not like what you say, but you have a right to say that, and I will give you a chance to say that. I have the right to disagree with you also, and that is why we have agreed to have the space, so that we can respectfully disagree with each other. And then the communities, the voters that are here, can make up their mind who they will vote for. So over to Kumi. Welcome, Kumi. Can we give him a hand, please?
Okay. And the video? Ready with the video? Hi, folks. It's wonderful to be with you. We're going to show you a small video from Mozambique to show you that climate change impacts is not something in the future. It's on our doorstep and it's happening right now. So if the technology works, there should be a video starting.
Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale. Our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change.
Well, one of the worst droughts in living memory has the Western Cape province on its knees.
We start anticipating the very real possibility of a day zero scenario.
Okay, it looks like the video has ended. I thought it was going to be a little bit longer. So folks, to start our proceedings today, I'd like to welcome a very special person, Rachel Marsh, who has been leading a wonderful organization called the Green Anglicans, to lead us off with a message and a prayer to kickstart our debate this afternoon. Please welcome Rachel Marsh.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. For Africa, climate change is not an environmental issue. It is a human rights issue. 70 people have lost their lives in KZN due to flooding and mudslides. A second huge cyclone is going to hit Mozambique this afternoon, Cyclone Kenneth. Cyclone Idai destroyed 90% of the city of Beira, a city of 500,000 people. Nearly 3 million people were affected across Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. Graça Machel says, Beira in Mozambique will go down in history as having been the first city to be completely devastated by climate change. How is that crisis connected to climate change? Warmer air holds more water vapor, which increases the intensity of rainfall. Cyclone Idai produced nearly a year's worth of rain in just a few days and came in the middle of the night and caught people unprotected. Secondly, the severe drought over the last few years had hardened the soil, increasing the runoff of floodwaters. Thirdly, the oceans have risen nearly 30 centimeters in the last century, leaving Beira now below sea level. Adding to this, the huge levels of commercial deforestation, which allowed the floods to rush through denuded soils. Cyclone Idai, Cyclone Kenneth, and the devastating floods in KZN and across the country are humanitarian crises that once again lay bare the fundamental injustice of climate change. I would like to ask that we stand for a moment of silence as we remember those 70 people who have lost their lives in KZN and the many hundreds who lost their lives. Let us keep silent. Benze baphumle ngonaphakade inkosi, ubakhanyisele ngolokhaniso olungacimiyo. Amen.
Okay, thank you everybody. So folks, the first thing we're going to do today is figure out who are the two youngest people in the audience who are able to see time though. Okay, anybody is 20 and younger, put up your hands. Okay, that guy clearly is lying. Okay, there's one. Okay, I need you to. Okay, please come up. Okay, so we got. So please find a chair. Okay, we got two here. You can join us as well. Please come. One must sit next to Rachel here, and one find a chair on that side. Anybody can guess what their job is? Okay, so when we invite our esteemed leaders of the political parties to come and speak, they're going to be given 2 minutes for the opening comments. And the young people are going to watch the time, and they will stand up when it's 2 minutes. Because let's be clear what the struggle is about. As Rachel said, okay, let me start with some good news. You probably heard people like myself say at some point, save the planet, and so on. So I want to start with some really good news. The planet is absolutely fine. The planet does not need saving. If we continue on the path that we're on, with dirty energy coming from oil, coal, and gas, by deforestation and other polluting economic activity, the end result is that we lose our soil, as we are losing in many parts of Africa. We lose our water resources, as we are seeing in many parts of Africa. We see sea level rise that will contaminate our agricultural lands along the sea because of the salt water and so on. The end result is that we won't eventually be able to plant food, we won't have water, and we live on a hot continent with hot people. How much more hotter can we get to survive? So the end result is, if we don't act now, we will be gone. The planet actually will still be here. And once we become extinct as a species, the forests will grow back, the oceans will replenish, and so on. So let's be very clear. The struggle to avert catastrophic climate change is nothing more or nothing less than protecting humanity's ability to live on this planet. And put differently, and that's why I asked for the children to come forward, is that this struggle to avert catastrophic climate change is nothing more or nothing less than protecting our children and their children's futures. So, just to kickstart, how many of you have heard this term 1.5 degree? Okay, keep your hands up. How many of you who have your hands up at the moment know where we are towards the 1.5 degree? If you still know, keep your hands up. If you're not sure, put it down. Okay, okay, that's good. At least half the political party representatives seem to know. We'll test them this now to see if they like. So basically, let's put it very simply. What that figure means is that from the time that humanity started the Industrial Revolution, or from the time that we started burning oil, coal, and gas, from that moment into the future, the science tells us we can only accommodate a 1.5 degree rise in temperature, right? And to the people who put up their hands said they knew where we are now towards that 1.5, please raise your hand. Somebody says 1, close but not, no cigar. Close, very close, 1. Anybody else? Yeah. So we're at 1.1 degree already. And at 1.1 degree in the last decade, we've had more than 100% increase in extreme weather events, right? So the science cannot tell us when we go to 1.2, whether it will quadruple, whether it will multiply by 10 and so on. All they say is it's going to get much, much more worse. Just to put it in context and to leave Africa for a moment, in July 2016, I was in the Pacific region on the small island states moving between different countries there. And I learned a slogan that I had not heard before. People were chanting a slogan which went like this: 1.5 to stay alive. 1.5 to stay alive, because those people already sea level rise is pushing them off their islands or pushing them, away from the coastline. 6 months later, when I meet them at the Paris climate negotiations, they invited me to come and speak at a rally inside the negotiations, and I was like very proud. I knew the slogan I learned from the Pacific. I can chant it. So I go there, I go 1.5 to, and they all say, no, the slogan has changed. The slogan has changed. And you know what the new slogan is? 1.5, we might survive. 1.5, we might survive. So let's be very clear that we, as the people in Western Cape will probably say, ons is deep in the kak, right? We are in deep shit, right? And sadly, most of our political and business leaders are in denial about the fact that we are running out of time. So I'm going to run the program in a way that our political party representatives will have 2 minutes each to state their party's position on the environment. And then after that, I will pose one question to each of them. And then after that, we'll have 1 hour where you can pose questions to them. Okay? So, but I thought to start off on a little bit of a light note. So, I was a visiting professor at a university in Sweden before I started at Greenpeace for 3 months. When I arrived there, in a city called Uppsala, this person from the university came to meet me, a friend, and he came about 15 minutes late. And then in those places in the world, they are very punctual, so he spent half an hour apologizing for being 15 minutes late. And his apology went something like this. He said, sorry man, I serve on the bus management company, and we had a problem and the meeting ran long. So I said, what was the problem? And he said, well, here in Uppsala, we run our buses on human feces. So I didn't know that this was possible. So I said, human feces? He said, yeah, I don't know what they call it in your country, but in some places they call it cuck, shit, crap, and so on. So I said, really? You run your buses on human shit? And then I have to tell you, when I heard that, I thought about Cape Town and the poo brigade. Right? You know, the fact that people do not have sanitation and the shit does not go to the place it should be, whatever. So I said to him, so what's the problem? You run your bus on shit, so what's the problem? He said, no, our municipality here, we've run out of shit, so we're trying to negotiate from the neighboring municipality to get their shit. They want to charge us so much for their shit as if their shit is special and so. And then I discovered that the next morning I had to go to the central bus station, and I walked past behind each bus, smelling deeply. No smell, nothing, buses running fine. Then I discovered there's about 6 other cities just in Europe that run the buses on human shit. So I have been saying to African leaders the last couple of years at the African Union that I refuse to accept that European shit is better than African shit. We have to just get our shit together and turn the crisis of climate change into an opportunity that can address not only the issue of climate, but the issue of sanitation, the issue of job creation, and so on. So that's the challenge before us. So I'm going to ask all the political parties, the main question is, what is your view on running all the buses in our country on human shit? So be prepared for that question. Okay, so first let me ask you all to put your hands together to say a very, very big thank you to all political party representatives that responded positively to this invitation from the range of organizations that have sponsored this event, and I'll just name them: SAFCEI, Project 90 but by 2030, Africa Climate Reality Project, We Fight Climate Change 350.org, and the Alternative Information and Development Center, AIDC. So let's put our hands together for all of our leaders. Okay, so let me ask the young, you got a watch? Okay. Rachel will help you. And where's the other young person on that side? Okay, somebody help with the watch there. So each of our leaders has 2 minutes. Once they hit the 2 minutes, you stand by the red chair there and look at them nicely and smile. Eh? You know what to do, okay? You can just stand there and smile, okay? So you got your 2 minute cutoff points. So we're going to kick off with our first representative, Beverly Schaefer from the Democratic Alliance. Over to you, Beverly. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Thank you very much. So the question is, do we care about environment as a Democratic Alliance? And the answer is absolutely yes. And if there's any party that actually understands in climate change and environmental changes, it's us in the Western Cape, I'm the Minister of Economic Opportunities and Agriculture, because we've had 6 years of drought. We've had 6 years of drought, we've had a water crisis, but at the same time, we understand and we've put policies in place that we're the fastest growing renewable energy province in Africa. We rank currently 128th out of 132 countries on the International Environmental Performance Index. The index notes with serious concern that South Africa's deteriorating air and water quality, its biodiversity, the functioning of ecosystems, and the state of our fisheries is in dire straits. Unless a truly integrated approach to environmental management is entrenched across all spheres of the state and society, it is unlikely to be any improvement in any environmental measures. And we believe that protection of the environment goes far beyond conservation. The maintenance of environmental quality, particularly the reduction of water, air, and soil pollution, is critical, as you've heard, for human and ecosystem health. And the DA's vision of an open opportunity society in which citizens have resource power and the opportunity to develop themselves and pursue their own objectives requires a healthy and productive population. We also understand that a degraded environment is not only minimizes opportunity for people, it actively works against any attempts to alleviate the plight of the most vulnerable people in our society. So, I know we've talked about the environment. We also understand that opportunities for new jobs in the green economy are numerous and provide an opportunity for people across South Africa. An effective response to climate change is absolutely needed. Just last year, the Western Cape had 14,500 fires in 1 year. The year before that, we had 17,000 fires in 1 year. Our disaster risk budget has had to increase every single year. The DA's vision of a society for all people resonates in its response to environment, water, mineral affairs. Oh, must I stop? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. And it's always hard to go first, so thank you. Thank you. So please let's say thank you once more to Beverly Schaefer. Our next representative is from the ANC, and we call upon Faiz Jacobs to give their position in 2 minutes. Over to you, Faiz.
Amandla.
Over to you.
We as the ANC believe you, me, us are intricately related to the, interconnected to the earth. And so our society is faced with big socioeconomic challenges, poverty, unemployment, inequality, and all of this is exacerbated by climate change. And how we act now is also linked to how we're going to deal with the consequences. I think the video makes it very clear. The poor and the vulnerable are the most acutely affected by climate change. I think for us, we must balance what we call the brown and the green issues, the socio-economic issues and the challenges, as well as climate change. South Africa has made significant strides, but we need to get our shit together. More needs to be done. I will give you a sense that we are signatory to the Paris Agreement. We are part of a comprehensive and balanced approach to dealing with climate change. More needs to be done around that. I think we need to navigate this thing of industrialization, development needs, vis-a-vis protecting. It's not a either or, it's an and situation. We need to look at how we balance the people, planet, and also sustainability. I think we've made significant investments in the renewable energy, public transport, efficiencies. We've also invested heavily in programs that help with climate change, like Working for Water, the wetlands, and Working for Fire programs. We will provide assistance to African countries to look at how we assist them, both on climate change and risk mitigation. The transition to low carbon economy is a challenge. We're not yet there. We inherited a lot of coal and cheap labor, and so we have to manage that transition. Also, water security. We've made many attempts or movements around cross-border water security with our neighboring countries, desalination, also campaigns to reduce and reuse and recycle is there. Water treatment plants is also something that we focus on, but I agree more needs to be done. Thank you.
Thanks. You see the power of young people. It's amazing. Let's say thank you to Faiz once again. Our next representative is Farouk Kasim, and he's from COPE. Farouk, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. If you look at the pamphlet issued by COPE, which is on my Facebook page, Councillor Farouk Kasim, you will see that it is the #1 issue on our pamphlet. Climate change is already 50 years in the making. 50 years ago, the United States Senate was warned about the fact that there was too much carbon accumulating in the atmosphere, that the oceans were acidifying. So already we are much too late. And therefore, if we do not speed up action, I'm afraid that the 12-year window that we have will be all too little, and everyone will say, you guys in politics did too little, too late. And that is what's going to happen. This should really terrify us, because as you saw what happened in Mozambique, what's happened now in Durban, what's happening in Johannesburg, China, you name it, country after country is witnessing the effects, the ravaging effects of climate change. So therefore, how does COPE view this issue? In the City Council, where I'm a member, I am bringing this issue up every time, meeting after meeting. I'm on the Climate and Energy Committee there too. It is something that we have to do earnestly and urgently, because our children and our grandchildren are going to inherit a wasteland. It is that serious. As Kumi was saying when I just popped in here, we are talking about, what's going to happen beyond the 1.5 degrees. Those who live in Milnerton will know that on one night, all of the sand on the beach was gone in one night. When you went there, there wasn't one grain of sand. The northeasters are going to be prevalent in Cape Town for 10 months of the year. Only June and July will not see these stormy winds. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a very, very stormy ride, and COPE says, let's move with utmost speed, because time is not on our side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Farouk. Farouk said one sentence there which I just want to ask the audience a question. He said, we have 12 years. Anybody knows what 12 years is about?
I just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
Most reports by scientists are actually about 10 years. And that basically means we have about 10 years to move to solar panels, stop drilling for oil, restore our oceans before we hit an irreversible chain reaction, which will lead to most life on Earth going completely extinct, which will include all of the human race.
Please give her a round of applause. Just think about that for a second. 10 years or even 12 years, right? And she's right, by the way, because that scientific body of the UN always gives conservative assessments. So whatever every assessment they give, you can usually, at least add a couple of more degrees of worse news in it. So she's right. We'd be lucky if we have 10 years. So we got 10 years for what? To get carbon emissions to peak and start coming down drastically by 2030. Before we're on the road to irreversible, catastrophic, life-destroying climate change. And that should have all of us shaking in our boots, and that should ensure that we also recognize that it cannot be business as usual anymore. Thank you very much once again. The next party is the Socialist Workers' Party, and I'll call upon Shahid Mohammed to represent them. Shahid, the floor is yours.
Amandla. Comrades, we believe that the central problem is the system of capitalism. Capitalism is international, and you cannot talk about the Paris Agreement because the Paris Agreement has been set up by the capitalists. The Paris Agreement is voluntary. The Paris Agreement says that you need to promote buying of insurance and promoting public-private partnership. In other words, in disguise of saving the environment, they actually want to save the capitalists. So we reject the minimum. In fact, we say the Paris Agreement is far too little. What we need is a revolution to overthrow capitalism. What we need is the working class to organize not only nationally but internationally. South Africa is keeping Lesotho as a slave. The people of Lesotho are giving us all their water, but they are living in dire poverty. That must end. The only way is through standing up, mobilizing workers in every country for a socialist revolution. That means that, and I want to take issue here, with a lady here on the right, saying that they protect the environment. We stand for the defense of the Philippi horticultural area, which the DA is currently trying to destroy. They are part of the supporting of a developer in a court case against the Philippi horticultural area small farmers. That means the destruction of all our vegetable production in Cape Town. That means the destruction of the last remaining recharge zone in Cape Town for the Cape Flats aquifer. So if you want to talk climate, put actions to your words. Don't talk nonsense here. We stand for the, okay, sorry, we will talk later, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say that I recommend to all of you who have to moderate a difficult conversation, do what I did. Just get two young people to help you, and you can see everybody listens. Thank you. Thank you, Shahid. The next representative is from EFF, and I call upon Pinawa Madokwe to take the floor.
No.
Oh.
I mean, I'll stand for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the EFF is not here, so let's move then. The next two parties, sorry, please calm down a bit, because I'm going to make a small joke and you don't want to miss it. The next two parties is the Green Party and then the Dagga Party. And before the Green Party takes the floor, I want to ask you a very serious question. Is the Green Party greener than the Dagga Party? You don't have to answer that.
Yeah, why not? So my name's Jason, I represent the Green Party. We're actually the only party here that has been contesting the elections actually since 1994. We actually brought climate change to the people of South Africa, trying to bring about some kind of change quite some time ago. Most of the words and information that we passed out back then fell on deaf ears. We have worked with both the DA and the ANC in an attempt to bring some kind of environmental sanity to what's actually going on here. And in fairness, when I listened to both the DA and the ANC, You know, they kind of had their shot at running things, but here we all find ourselves. We find ourselves on the edge of absolute chaos and ecosystem meltdown. Now, as a party, we have tried our best to bring everybody the information. We've been blocked out by media, so we went ahead and created our own media channel. We've gone to all the climate change conferences. We've reported and displayed scientists trying to bring the information about climate change to the people. And to a large extent, we've been somewhat successful. But for us to turn around the position of where we sit right now, it's going to be really, really difficult. Even if all of you were to today vote for the Green Party, the probability of us being able to lift our nose before some kind of climate meltdown is it's almost impossible. We are literally not a vote for a party, we are literally a vote for you, and we're a vote for your children. And we are literally the only party sitting here that is going to tell you something sensical about the environment. Everybody here likes to, you know, in fact, in all of the interviews that I've had prior to this, they ask you to unpack the position of the Green Party in a minute and a half. But the problem is so massively complex, it's really difficult to squash into a minute and a half. Some of the ideas that right. Damn.
By the way, this is very good training to be in politics. Eh? You have to say the thing quickly in the elevator test. Eh? So the next party is the Dagga Party, and I'll call upon Jeremy Acton. Jeremy, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Okay, so we all know the problem. We all know we're in the same climate change boat. We all know that we're facing extinction. We all know that time is of the essence, and this is about our children's future. Okay, so the question is, how do we stop taking fossil carbon out of the ground and burning it in our economy and putting it into the atmosphere? Is there possibly a technology that is eco-friendly that can take it out of the atmosphere back into the economy, and that we might even be able to pack some of it away in such a way that we are saving the planet from the overload of carbon dioxide? Okay, so I'm here to sell the product and the technology that will do that for this country, and it will allow everybody to participate equally in a whole new economy. Okay, and that technology is called cannabis, Dagga, in the original word. Okay, okay. So this is about a business plan. We're going to, we of the Dagga Party of South Africa will make sure that it is legislated in such a way that everyone may participate in a regulated way by the formation of cooperatives on a ward-based scale. That's the smallest unit we can create in South Africa, in accordance with the smallest beautiful concept of the famous economist E.F. Schumacher. And we build communities around that as cooperatives, who would then work together in the regulation of how old may the youths be, what is appropriate behavior. We can regulate ourselves. We don't need a big brother corporate state to regulate us, with police especially. Okay, so that would allow us to deliver the biomass to the sewage works, which gets mixed with the shit, and we generate biogas in order to live off the fossil carbon cycle. So we promise a cure for cancer at the clinics. We promise hemp seed for nutrition. So if you're caring about the future of these young people, please vote for them and vote Dagga Party. Okay. And there's one thing.
You'll get a chance. When I ask you a question, then you squeeze it in, okay?
If I may just say one thing.
Sorry. No, Jeremy, just to be consistent. So, okay, shh. Why are you all being so high now? Take it easy. So let me just say one thing. Sorry. Let me firstly ask you to just thank all the speakers that have spoken already. And then I just want to lift up the power of activism in this country and the power of taking issues that might seem unpopular, small organizations, and actually winning. And I think Jeremy's movement has actually played a big role in showing how you can take litigation, public campaigning, and so on, and won that victory in the Cape Town High Court, and I think that's a significant thing. But more significant, sorry to be a bit biased, was the other victory that SAFCEI, an organization that employs about 15, 20 people, joined with EarthLife Africa, also 15 people. These two small NGOs had the guts to take on the government, went to the Cape Town High Court and won a legal victory, which had we had not won that victory, where the court said to President Zuma and his government they had to stop the nuclear deal with Russia and go back and start that process again because they had not followed. And when that court case started, I can tell you that most people said, you don't stand a chance, the deal's done, it's all going to happen. And winning that victory gave us chance to ensure that we dodged a big bullet. Let's be very clear. If the nuclear deal went ahead, our country would be even more in deep cuck than we are now. Right? Let's just be clear about that. So, can you believe it? All the political parties, we got out of the way and they all kept to time. So thank you. Oh! Sorry. BLF, sorry. Okay, so sorry. BLF representative. My sincere apologies for that. Over to you, my brother.
Yeah.
Your name wasn't on the list, sorry.
Amandla. I represent the BLF. My name is Ngadisa Mbemnyam. We view the energy sector as a national sovereign interest, and we call for it to be owned by the state, with no private entity carrying the ability to private ownership. We also do not support the Paris Agreement as it overburdens developing nations with responding to the problem of climate change, while the West refuses to take responsibility for their role in continually destroying the planet through looting of minerals without care for the oppressed which they have colonized. If you look at the Carbon Majors report of 2017, it revealed that in 1988, only 100 companies, majority white, produce more than 70% of the world's greenhouse gases. Of those 100 companies, you will see that the South African white monopoly capital companies like BHP, Billiton, Anglo-American, Glencore, and Exxaro Resources. We support the fight against climate change. We call for the utilization of clean energy, of which the cleanest sustainable possibly is nuclear energy. BLF further aims to burden white monopoly capital corporations, including those in the mining and the energy sector, with the responsibility to fight climate change. We can't fight climate change on our own. And also, as BLF would like to say, we are very, puzzled by the racial composition of the space, because usually when you're here it's black people. When we talk about poverty, when we talk there's just so many white people, because climate change forces us to deal with the commons, as Marx talked about, that all of us are in this shithole which Trump talked about, and the racists must also come to fight in their communities and make sure that this country is good for all of us. So we're saying we want clean energy, and we are against the IPPs, the independent power producers, with 1.4 trillion used for them. Isolate.
Well, thank you, and apologies that your name wasn't on the list. So folks, I'm going to do one round of questions, and with the permission of the representatives, to make it more interesting, I want to ask each of you the same question, if that's okay. But you should feel free to indicate to me if you would like to add to some of the questions. So let me start with Beverly. Does the DA support a carbon fee or a carbon tax? If not, why? And if so, why?
So we don't support any tax, we don't support taxes that add extra burden on society just to try and incur behavioral change. We believe there's lots of other ways to actually sort out behavioral change. We've seen that, how we've done it so well with the water crisis, and how we've actually got a permanent behavior change from 1.1 million litres down between 500 and 600 million litres still and continuing. People are still continuing to conserve water. So while we might be a tax, we don't support taxes just for behavioral change.
Thank you. Please. Okay, so
Yeah, you see, we are going to be coming in with a tax of 120 rands per ton. But after free allocation is going to come to 6 rands 50 a ton. And the question is, will 6 rands 50 a ton be enough to impact on climate change? It's not going to be the answer. If you want to go for a tax, go for it in a meaningful way so you get a transition from what is fossil fuel to something that would be renewable and carbon reduction fuel. So I think we are going about it in the wrong way, too little, too late, as always. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Faiz?
I think as the ANC, we support the tax. I think we want to encourage people to change their behavior, but we also need to tax those corporate companies to ensure that they actually do pay and contribute. I think there is a debate about whether 6 rand is enough. I think there is consultation around to actually increase it from 6 to 48 rand. I think the problem is that we need to ensure that we get the behavioral changes, but at the same time force people. Look at the water issue here in the Western Cape. We have high water tariffs, and the poor is being punished for these high water tariffs that we have. And the city is making a surplus, a profit out of the water crisis that we have. So we are saying it's double standards if the DA doesn't support the carbon tax for the rich, but they actually ensure that the poor gets punished for the water tariffs that we have.
Okay, thanks. With your permission, I'll just add, do you want to go on the same? Please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just confused about, are you saying that we can, are we all going to speak?
If you want to add to it, you can add.
I mean, you're going to ask a different question to other people.
Yeah, I haven't scripted the questions. Just clarify. I haven't figured out exactly what questions. I just thought I pose it to one person. If others want to, jump in. So jump in.
Okay, I think that we would oppose a carbon tax because who's going to pay the tax? It's going to be you and I. You see, the capitalists will just change their profit structure to shift the burden onto us as the working class. So what we need to do, therefore...
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, sorry.
So, because there is a bit of a misconception in the conversation so far, right? Yeah. And that is, in the environmental movement, there has been a long-standing slogan which says, or principle actually, which is the polluter pays principle. The polluter pays principle. And in the polluter pays principle, if we applied it properly, right, the people that should pay the carbon tax are those that are the biggest consumers of carbon, right? So basically, you will hear a term called climate justice. When we use the term climate justice, what we mean is we have a terrible injustice that the parts of the world, the Europe, the United States, and so on, that build their economies on dirty energy, right? They cause the majority of the damage historically, right? But the people that are paying the first and most brutal price for climate impacts are people in Africa, the Caribbean, Asia, and so on. So when we talk about the polluter pays principle and the carbon tax, it is to ensure that it shouldn't be the way you said it if it was done properly. The problem is a lot of the conversation globally, and Donald Trump does exactly the same, where he says, oh, no, we don't want to tax anybody. Basically, Donald Trump is about protecting the 1% of the United States. It's not about caring about ordinary people. And as a matter of public policy, when we look at many things where money is spent in South Africa, much of the infrastructure development and so on that billions of dollars go into, most of poor people in rural areas are not benefiting from it. So it's the same principle about ensuring that those that benefit, those that pollute, are the ones that should pay the most. You also want, sorry, you.
Okay, I'm still on the floor. Thank you. You know, I think that you are trying to discipline the capitalist. You know, whereas yes, you can try techniques. You know, if it is going to impact on the capitalist, fine, go ahead. But what we stand for is for the expropriation of the mines, of Sasol, and the commanding heights of those of the economy, and in fact the raising in the interim of the company tax on profits to 48%, because you cannot leave the energy sector or the renewable energy in the hands of the capitalists. So it has to be nationalization without compensation of these monopolies to be placed under workers' control, because we don't believe that this should be taken from the imperialism and handed over to a local black capitalist. It's still capitalist. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, Courtney? Sorry.
Thanks. So the Green Party has a slightly expanded version of carbon taxation. It's called environmental impact tax. It's basically to the extent that you destroy is the extent that you pay. And it tends to hold, or it will hold, all companies that are generating any kind of resource or business that is impactful to the environment to account. The big problem here is not so much the implementation of an impact tax. The big problem is once you generate the tax, that the tax actually becomes utilized to correct the environment that it destroyed, which is actually part of the big problem that we have right now. You can raise as many taxes as you want, but until you're going to inject it into sustainable kind of business and sustainable economy, you're done for. So the Green Party intends to implement an environmental impact tax, hold those companies to account, but with the finances that are raised by the taxation, A, we will bring about behavioral change, but B, all of the taxation will be funneled into correcting the environment as it stands right now, the ecosystem. And one little quick thing, you talk about Donald Trump. South Africa, if I remember correctly, stands 8th highest polluter in the world. And China, you can talk about Donald Trump because the United States actually publishes their results, but China does far, far, far worse than the United States ever could. And they're Asian, by the way, they're not white. So.
Yes, so thank you for making those points. Let me just correct two things that you got wrong there, though. It's very important that when we look at Africa as a continent, right, that Africa as a continent has been one of the lowest emitters of carbon. However, South Africa as a country is the 12th largest emitter in the world, okay? And secondly, when you make the comparison with US and China, it's really important for us not to take out the question of per capita emissions. So it is true that China, as a population of 1.3 billion, collectively is emitting more carbon, but the United States is a population of 400 million people. The individual person in the US, because one of the issues that comes up when I was the head of Greenpeace, people will always tell me, especially in Europe and the US, the question will come up, yeah, but what are you all doing about population size? People in Africa and Asia are having too many babies and blah, blah. The reality is the consumption of one middle-class kid in Europe or the US equals the consumption of 150 kids in a village anywhere in Africa, for example. So it's important that we keep that perspective in mind. So, did anybody else? Jeremy?
So we have a push effect in terms of thinking about a tax where we hopefully reduce the outputs of carbon by large corporations and try to ensure that they don't pass those costs on to the goods that we buy from them. The other thing about the carbon credit market is that with the right mindset, it can become a massive business opportunity for all South Africans, where if we could just sequester carbon and in such a way that it was placed into housing blocks, for example, we could kill two birds with one stone. We can save the environment on the one side, and we can build houses on the other side. So once again, the material that we use, the technological solution to actually apply the real change in getting off fossil carbon. You know, we can tax the system as much as we like to try and push it in the right direction, but unless we're actually implementing the real solution that actually works in an ecological way, then we can tax all we like, but we're still going to face the extinction if we don't apply the answers. So once again, I say that we have to unlock this resource called cannabis for the sustainable future. I don't believe that we are going to be able to get away without doing that. Nature will decide. And the thing that I wanted to say before I have to say this for is that the Dagga Party is in alliance with another political party. You won't find the Dagga Party on the ballot. Our candidates have joined with a political party called the African Democratic Change Party, also known as ADEC. So if you want to vote for this resource for your kids' future and for an environment that an economy that can use this resource, then please vote African Democratic Change Party.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Lisa.
The PLF says we must scrap the carbon bill, right? Because it's informed by the Paris Agreement. And this will see the cost of climate change still carried by the poor directly. I don't know if I should repeat that because there seems to be a lot of commotion.
Please, folks, keep it down.
So I must be protected, Chairperson, the commotion.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. We're saying that as a PLF, we must scrap the carbon tax bill, right? It's informed by the Paris Agreement. This will also see the cost of climate change directly impacting and being carried by the poor, like people like the ones at KZN, for instance. Also, products such as petrol, oil, paraffin will be subjected to a tax like that. And
so, sorry, you do know that petrol, paraffin, and so on is what causes climate change, right?
Yes, but we do know that the poor people are the ones that are using paraffin because they can't afford other forms of yeah.
Okay, so I just want to...
Granted, but we still are back to who emits the most, that kind of debate, right? Because when you jump and say this paraffin, are you telling me people in Khayelitsha are emitting more than people who are staying in affluent countries and so forth, and therefore we must not give them paraffin because...
No. In fact, I want to do much better than that, and the people of South Africa want much better than that.
Give us
they don't want paraffin. They want clean energy, where their homes won't burn down, where their shacks... Right?
But,
So just to say that the poor in our country the poor in our country deserve the best.
Yes, I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying in the interim, whilst the ANC and the DA in power and they are fucking up the lives of our people, in the interim, well, they have not been giving our people clean energy. We propose that these ones, when we don't overtax the poor for being poor, that is the main argument.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with everything you're saying, but don't tax those who are already.
Okay, no, thank you very much, but I need to make one comment now. Folks, for me, being in this, just a very personal comment. I got involved in the struggle when I was 15 years old. My first march in 1980, the slogan in the front of the march was, "We want equality." When the slogan got to the back of the march, the young kids were chanting, "We want a color TV," because they thought that was what the slogan was. But what I want to say that my heart is actually very warm here today to see that we can have a discussion like this with diversity, with a large measure of decency, and this is what democracy looks like, right? So I just want to urge all the panelists to continue to respect each other as much as possible. You can make your points without needing to be pejorative and attacking anybody, as most of us have done up to now. The second question that I want to ask is, people keep saying it cannot be business as usual, right? That what Lily Shaw here reminded us is that we have 10 years to get emissions to peak before we to put it quite bluntly, before we are basically on the road to extinction, right? So that needs to put a real shocker in us, right? So I'm going to ask for the mic, the hand mic, if somebody can give it to me. And I'm going to walk on the stage, and I'm going to ask each political party person to say, if you agree, it cannot be business as usual. That what is needed now is not small baby step change. What we need is a system change, right? What is the one non-business as usual thing that you would do if your party was elected into power? Is the question clear? Just one thing, right? And in not more than 30 seconds. So to make it easy and save time, I'll come to the stage. I'm going to start with on the extreme left. Well, you could also be on the extreme right, depending which way you look at it. So one non-business as usual, what would you change fundamentally to address climate change?
Okay, we'll redistribute stolen land, creating at least 1 million jobs. And this will implement with an alternative renewable energy model that could see 42% reductions in emissions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cope?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we will need to change is the way people are transported, because you see, transport is costing people money, and it's also one of the biggest emitters. So we have to deal with transport and see how we can overcome that problem in order that the whole business model changes. Because at the moment, it is that some people live 30 kilometers away and have to commute daily to come to work and go back again. And if you look at all the number of people that are with cars and the congestion, the amount of pollution is scary. And remember that our oceans have now completely acidified. They can't take any more carbon.
Okay. So remind us now, you said so many things there. What's the one thing?
Change the whole transport model.
Okay. And what does that entail?
That will entail doing away with vehicles that use petrol and diesel. We will have to move to e-cars as swiftly as possible.
Okay. Right, so I'm going to jump you for a second because you sounded like you disagreed with what he said.
Yeah, that's great. We are moving towards electric cars, but it really creates 45% to import an electric car into South Africa because it's considered a luxury vehicle. We need to change that. Secondly, so I agree with you on that, but I think first of all is to cut the coal emissions that South Africa is using, get rid of the coal plants. We've got over 2,000 independent power producers on solar PV in the Western Cape. Why can we not have more independent power producers? Open the call for independent power producers to be open for South Africa and change the way that we use energy in South Africa.
Thank you. One thing the Dagga Party would do, Jeremy.
Okay. I'm going to tell you quickly 3 things. The first thing we're going to do at city level is biogas oil sewage for methane production and run our cities on methane instead of on long-distance fossil carbon. The second thing is to legalize the future carbon resource, which is cannabis, and we can stop using fossil carbon. Okay? And the other thing is that everyone is going to be participating in that vision, including the vision for active carbon sequestration, using the product that I recommend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Green Party would implement renewables. It would also make sure those renewables are free. We would ban all chemicals that are poisoning the waterways. We would implement ethical animal rights and reduce the amount of meat protein being eaten by the public. And that is probably the single largest thing that you can do towards resolving climate change.
Okay, from the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party, we would change the principle from a commodity economy to a needs-based economy. Therefore, production will be based on need and not based on having to make a profit, which means that the entire production will be earth-centered, it will be people-centered, and therefore there will be an immediate transition from the capitalist chaos that we have towards saving the planet, which means that, for example, when you're dealing with the renewables, it's not going to be like, for example, at Tshwane University, we produced a fantastic technique for solar power, but it was bought up by Rembrandt and sold to Germany. It's being used in Germany. So we're saying that Yes, we want renewables, but it must be under the control of the state, not just control of the state, but under workers' control. Thank you.
Thank you. I think for us, we need to start with ourselves as people. So we need a lot of change amongst ourselves as people, all our behavior, because we can talk green, but we are dependent on dirty fuel in terms of our cars, transport, everything. So we need to start with ourselves first. I think the key thing is not either or. We need to manage the green issues with the brown issues, the socio-economic. We can't have focus on the climate change without dealing with the socio-economic challenges. So for us, it's about reducing the greenhouse emissions, at the same time also reducing our dependency on coal and gradually phasing out our dependency on coal and ensure that we have clean energy mixes.
Okay, so can we give them a round of applause before I come to you? Okay, so I'm going to call the two wonderful assistants of mine, Lily Shaw and Inga Skosana, to, firstly, both of them come and stand in front, please. These are the two people who are keeping the things moving. Please say a big thank you to Lily and Inga. Okay, so they're going to help me now to make sure that you all behave yourselves. So we are going to make sure that nobody takes more than 30 to 45 seconds in your questions, okay? So what I'm going to suggest, to make it easier, right, there are going to be two people with roving mics. I think this mic should go to somebody. And what we're going to do is go one here, one there. No, we need somebody to distribute that mic. Okay, so we take one question here, and we are going to be trying to balance a lot of diversities. Okay? There will be one man, one woman, one young, one old, right? Like that. Okay. Yeah, and this side, that side. So let's start with the gentleman there. And once they go more than 30 seconds, you all say,
yeah. Okay. No, don't worry, I'll be very short. Faith, I want to correct you that also Right to Know campaign was part of the High Court case that was...
Absolutely, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, one question for me to all the parties. My question is, what is their plan in terms of creating jobs and protecting the earth for carbon? Because I believe that the capitalists are using industrial process to create jobs. So what is the plan of protecting the earth and also creating jobs for the people, especially for the poor people on the ground? Thank you.
Thank you very much. To the folks on the panel, so we get most participation, I'll collect 5 questions at a time, and then when I come to you, you pick 1 or 2 questions, okay? Don't try to answer all of them, because it will run out of time. So going on to this side, there's a young woman there. Oh, sorry, young man, sorry. Wrong angle.
I have a question for the Green Party. If you could do exactly one of these 3 things, which would you do? Shut down Kuberg, ban GMO genetically modified food in South Africa, or fix the railways, which would you do and why?
Okay, wow. You should be doing this job. Very, very good question. Okay, yeah. There. And sorry, the next one is here.
Tell me when Masati. I don't see any black women on this panel, and I'm not sure whether to laugh or cry about that, but I guess my question is, what does climate justice mean to you? We've got 7 people, not a single one is a black woman. And we all know that climate change affects women worse than men. We know Africa's warming at twice the global rate, and what's the color of Africa? So, did you people give any thought to who's representing your party when you came here? Or were you just like, oh, the South African voter's going to swallow this like they've swallowed it previously?
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Yes, hi. I have a
Okay,
question.
thank you.
I have a question for the DA, Beverly. Great aspirations, close down coal mines. Well, what's going to happen to all the workers, first of all? Then secondly, in the city of Cape Town, the DA has not managed over I don't know how many years to put a proper recycling plan in place. You know, a recycling economy could create many jobs, and you know, I don't think it's that difficult. You know, a stadium was built in Greenpoint in some magical record time. Why can't we get a recycling program off the ground in the city of Cape Town?
Okay, thank you.
Afternoon. My question is directly to the DA. What was the water device for? The water device was being developed for only for black people or for everyone? Because if yes or no, do you have on your premises? A second question, DA and ANC, when are you renovating our beaches there, Monwabis and Makasa? Because they are too dirty, you are putting a private security on your own beaches here. And second, Cope, you are a bunch of losers. Nothing I can say to you.
Okay,
A
okay.
bunch of
All right,
losers.
that's it. Okay, so let me just say that we want to give everybody a chance to participate. Please listen to each other, even if you disagree. When you have so many political parties, with the diversity we have in our country, we're going to all have different views to everything. So please respect that, okay? And let's not argue the point. Don't argue against people or their positions. Okay, so you want to say something? Let's give it to her. She deserves it.
My question is aimed at every single political party represented on the stage right now. So for the carbon tax, I wanted to point out, even if it is just the polluters paying, they have enough money that they would be able to easily pay for the carbon tax and more. So I don't believe a carbon tax is actually what we need right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have finally here where we can voice everything. We are facing a historic crisis. The climate change is manifesting itself here. What I want to know is from the panel, anybody can take this up, is to some of you support renewable energy. The parties here present, how do you propose to move to a just transition in the interim and past and post May 8 after the elections? Because climate change is affecting everybody, especially those in the poor and informal settlements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take one last question from this side and then we'll give a quick round of responses, okay?
So I want to know from the parties, people vote for the parties, but parties represent companies and not people in this country. So 2 examples, the DA representing companies and not the community of Philippi. Philippi is the lungs of Cape Town. There's a massive aquifer water source, and it also consumes and takes in a lot of the carbon. So how can the DA make a decision where you grant prospecting license for one company to benefit for resources that belong to everyone in this country? So secondly, to the ANC, in Korobeni, how can a minister who doesn't represent people in this country but represents an Australian company goes into a community, divides the community, 12 activists have been killed. No one knows, or there hasn't been any investigation completed. A court case that's won by the community for free, prior, informed consent, and the minister takes it on appeal, meaning the minister doesn't think consent is required from the community. So how can we vote for parties and people that don't care about people, but rather represent interests of companies?
Okay, so a big challenge to the panelists now, right? I need you to be really disciplined, okay? So you're going to have a minute to respond to any of the questions that came up so that we can have at least 3 rounds of where people from the floor can ask questions. Faiz, I'll start with you and you can just pass the mic around.
Thanks. Very important questions. Look, I think the ANC, we have African women, and I think I want to start there. I'm really apologetic that we haven't sent an African woman here, because they can, as much as me, also articulate the views espoused by the ANC on the issue. I think the issue of gender equality in the ANC is there. We are quite affirmed about it, and I think your point is well made, and I respect the point. I think the ANC must acknowledge the mistakes that we've made, and I want to acknowledge that in many instances we have gone wrong and we have messed up. Let me use that word. I think the common example now is where the ANC must ensure that we put people first, not profit and not companies. And I think our policy speaks to that. I think there is challenges around that, and we'll address that. We are not in government here in the Western Cape, so I think sometimes people talk very glibly about the role that the ANC plays. We are not in government, comrade. We are not in government. Okay, and there's 8 years that we haven't been in government. We support the community issues that's prevalent on the Cape Flats and fight for environmental justice here.
Thank you, Faiz. Over to
from the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party, we say that one of the first principles when it comes to mining is that any community has got the absolute right to refuse mining. No compromise on that. The state has arrested many housing activists, many working class activists are languishing in jail because they stood up defending the community. And as the comrades are saying, that some people have been killed. Now, in the question of the recycling of water, the DA has miserably failed. Every day, there's 100 million liters of water being pumped into the sea. It's a disgrace. So we say that we need to protect the Philippi horticultural area. It's our nurturer of the Cape Flats aquifer, as we said already. And we say that there should be a plan for the treating and the reintegration of water. I'll stop there. I'll talk later.
Thank you very much. I'm also scared, by the way.
It's not a matter of being scared. It's just to respect.
No, big respect. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Courtney, you had those 3 questions. It'd be lovely if you could answer them.
It's actually just one question. He asked me to pick one of 3. So, if you consider that Coburg is producing power at 1.2 tons of carbon per kilowatt produced, so I wouldn't take Coburg. I would look at the expansion of the transport system, but I would electrify it. But to answer your question, I would actually go with GMOs, and not necessarily because GMOs in their own right, it's actually the kind of chemicals that they're utilizing to maintain GMOs. So it's having a long-term effect on the biomass in the soil. And we've actually taken samples of the soil, and we've checked it for ourselves. There's DED, E, there's dildrin, there's various types of biomagnifying chemicals already resident in the soils. And it's actually in your food, by the way, that you're buying off the shelf. So I would go with GMOs, and I would go mainly for the control of the agrichem that they're applying to it. And I'd just like to say something to you, if I may, that we're in a position right now where we're actually in a hell of a lot of trouble. And it's not important what color I am. What's important is the message. And so you can replace me with whatever person you want, as long as the message comes through. So there we go. Sorry.
Thank you.
So I had a few questions. I think firstly, how to create jobs. And we know that going forward in the new economy that everything is about sustainable and renewable energy. I'm not saying get rid of coal completely, but we need to stop increasing coal usage. We need to start looking at green energy. And the jobs is in the green economy. We have created more jobs in the Western Cape in the green economy through the Atlantis Green Tech Zone because we are now, and has resulted now in the fastest growing economy in Africa. But the first and important thing is that you can't create the jobs if you don't create the skill. So under our skills program, we have now got skills to actually help people to install solar PV, because this is a required skill. To be able to participate in the green economy, you need specific skills. So we believe that there is certainly potential. Secondly, the City of Cape Town does have a City of Cape Town integrated waste management bylaw. It also has a website for waste recyclers, which you can actually just click on and it will tell you exactly where the recyclers are. I've heard that there's more than 65,000 waste pickers across South Africa. The waste recycling, green, circular economy is very important, and we're moving towards that. And we also have the Green Cape Waste Economy Market Intelligence Report.
Thank you. Next, please.
Okay, I'm going to just answer questions from a spot point of view. That gentleman over there asked about renewable energy. We support biogas from sewage. We support concentrating solar thermal rather than photovoltaics, which the author Jeremy Rifkin calls a dead end, a technological dead end. We also support medium-scale wind power, but using bird-friendly technologies and not those that damage the lives of bats and migrant birds. That is possible. With regard to the job creation, you cannot create jobs in an economy where the energy supply is shrinking. You cannot create jobs where the material supply is shrinking. We have to double our resources just to maintain our present levels. As fossil carbon wanes and becomes more and more expensive to mine. Now, we are not only facing climate change, extinction from the emissions that then cause the problem with climate, we also have gone over peak oil in 2011. We're on the downhill supply of carbon. So we are already in a state of economic energy collapse. So the solution to that is to unlock a resource that allows people to actually generate carbon for material, jobs creation, tourism, and clean energy. Thank you very much.
I tabled a motion in the council 3 months ago on better waste management and recycling, but unfortunately it was shot down by the DA. It's fact, you can have a look at that. Secondly, on Monwa BC Beach, you would like to know that I had a motion to try and get Monwa BC Beach and the beaches along the Falls Coast up and running, because South Africa has the two biggest tidal pools in Africa at Monwa BC Beach and Strandfontein. And if you look at them now, they are in total ruin. So I'm trying to push very hard for that. I'm also very much in favor of improving the rail service so that we can do something about it. I agree that we must create microgrids to provide power. And if I were not voting for COPE, I would certainly vote for the Green Party. And I support the idea of concentrated solar. That is the solution. And at the moment, we are now having new types of solar technology called bifacial technology, which allows panels to pick up electricity from the top and from the bottom. I'm sorry, I'm not a woman, but in my party, I'm the strongest proponent for environment, and that's why I'm here. My apologies.
Chairperson, can I speak? Am I allowed?
Please.
Yeah, yes, I'm speaking. The conversations today have not been dialectical, and this is a hallmark of liberal, elitist conversations. We are saying as BLF, we must redistribute the land in 35,000 white families to black people, creating 1 million jobs. And this together with an alternative energy model could see us, decreasing emissions at 42% within 5 years. And we also say there must be nationalization of the mining sector. The mining sector is, this will offset the cost of nuclear energy
Which
generation.
question are you answering, by the way?
That's the first.
Privatization, okay. Okay.
I'm answering the first question.
Okay.
And then I'll deal with that. And I'll deal with the socialization also.
Okay,
It's fine.
cool.
Yeah, it's fine. So I'm responding to the first question, and I also want to respond to the question of the brother there with the white. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, my brother. But we call on, as a PLF, for every party, for every political party to tell us who funds them. This is very important, because the reason why people are talking with forked tongues in these political parties is because they are being funded by sordid capitalists from elsewhere. And we must all come forward and say, I am funded by a business person in Kailicha, in Miningberg.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
You done?
Yes.
You're done. Okay, so
I'm done.
So I just wanted to point out something just for my own understanding. Your first sentence was, this conversation is not dialectical, it's very elitist. So let me just ask, how many of you here know what the definition of dialectical is? So it raises a question about who is being elitist.
So I know the meaning, so what?
Okay, thank you. I'll just make a light moment. I have received a note from some residents from Kailicha, which I'll read in a short while. But I want to take one round more of questions, and I'm going to go to the back now. Sorry. We start in the front. Shh. Let's go to the back. We'll come back here. Yeah. Please, take it. Please.
Thank you so much. It's amazing how you started this conversation, Kumi, with, in Afrikaans, they say bromme bolly, and others were calling it kak and shit and feces. Excuse the language if I offend anybody. But the issue here is that there are people that is living in Masipumalele, and I'm sure other informal settlements that's literally living on feces, human feces, and everybody here is talking about the issue to say how we can create biogas with that. Why has the DA government not implemented that within the Western Cape, where they have the power and the authority to do so? Recently, in the IDP budget speech at our sub-council that we attended, sub-council 19, there's loads of money that has been set aside for recycling and for the dumps in Muizenberg, but nothing has been mentioned about Masipumalele in terms of food security through the mayor's urban regeneration plan. And it's a pity that Good is not here today so that we can ask this question. The community I come from, Ocean View, has put together a plan to say that we need, because of the food insecurity in the area, especially Ocean View, Masipumalele, we want to run our own food gardens. Instead, the DA-led government then gave it to a very famous person, Justin Bonallo, and not involving the community in that conversations other than us just learning to become farmers. And we had people that has put in a tender from our community to do so. And the issue was also around land. And someone spoke earlier about the Philippi situation. I think it was Comrade Mo that spoke about that. Now, if we want to sustain ourselves as a community, then surely we expect the politicians to give the resources financially or otherwise to the people so that we can sustain ourselves as communities. On the issue, everybody's been speaking about the environment from Cope. Cope started with the human rights, and it's people's human rights not to live in sewer. And then also to the DA and to the ANC around the issue of land. And I think BLF is also talking to the issue of land. I'm wrapping up, please allow me, because we've been waiting for this opportunity. What are you going to do for the people of the Western Cape, and specifically around MERP, the people of Ocean View and Masipumalele? And then lastly, in Ocean View, it's called Solomon Square, it's a Rasta camp. People have been living on that land for 30 years. They have still not been serviced properly by the DA-led government. They are still using candles and using renewable energy that they have designed. So I want to put the challenge out to the political parties is pay attention to the poor.
Good day to everyone that's sitting up there. I don't know if you can hear me. I really like your banner. I don't know if it's your banner or whose banner is it. But my main concern is, what are we doing about our ozone layer? that is failing us. Than you people like selling us products that are saying ozone friendly. When are you going to stop like digging our land and let nature take its course? The second one, it goes straight to the ANC. Yeah. You were just making your budget speech recently on this year, saying that you have taken so much money out of the flour that you're selling us. But 3 days later, the bread that is made out of the same flour has grown up. What's that supposed to mean?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Please.
I have two direct questions because I believe politicians should be focused on the now. We don't have time for the future. So right now, Koeberg is operating. It's a nuclear power station. Around it live a lot of people in informal settlements. If there's a leakage, there's nowhere for them to shelter. They will die of cancer, if not radiation. The food basket of the Western Cape is within that radiation plume. Koeberg is way past its sell-by date. So every political party on stage, what date, if you get into power, what date will Koeberg close? And my other question is, we've spoken about climate change, we've seen the videos, we know the drought, we know the floods that can happen in the winter. So, and we know it's going to increase. And we know every time the government will tell us, yeah, we'll find some national emergency money, we'll find some local emergency money. We don't need small bits of money. We need a real climate adaptation strategy for everybody. So, for every political party there, if you were in power, what percentage of your budget would you make sure it got to climate adaptation? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm just going to bring the conversation down to grassroots level. We all know, obviously, we all know who's the governing party in the Western Cape. We all talk about renewable energy, but the politicians doesn't respond who owns and controls the technology. That is the important part. Who funds them? If they are pushing a capitalist agenda, is obviously who funds them. But let's get back to reality. In Delft, I'm from Delft, they were building RDP houses. The community said, let's put in solar heating so that we can generate solar heating and of course energy. That was denied, meaning that we are still connected to the grid. In Cuba, it is proven people that generate their own electricity because the sun is free, generate 60% of their household energy. The other point was raised about our skills levels, I would like to inform government, in our schools, we are doing maths literacy, meaning our children cannot enter university, they don't have maths. So the system is designed to exclude us from that process.
Thank you.
My last point. Political parties, we all know South Africa is the most unequal country in the world. I don't know how it comes about, but political parties always make a reference to our people. I don't know of us belonging to any political party as our people. Meaning, to me, comrades, if we are poor and we are our people to the political parties, we will stay poor, comrades, of course.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The young person there.
Okay.
Shh. Go ahead, the one with the mic.
Okay.
I'll come back to the... Please, go ahead.
Okay, since we have seen what has happened in Durban, there's been floods there and a lot of people have died. Now, we all know that wetlands are sort of like flood controllers, you know. And I've noticed in Khayelitsha and in also Delft, there are wetlands that are not protected. This heading says the earth needs our protection. when will we protect our earth by making sure that these lives that are on these wetlands are protected?
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I think we'll go back to the panel and then come back to the good news. Wait, I got some good news for you. What's the time now? 6 o'clock. 5 to 6. The good news is, because I cut down the number of questions I asked the panel, we were only supposed to start with audience participation at 6 o'clock. So you got another long time, right? So you'll have lots of time. So before I turn to the panel though, there's just a message from residents from Khayelitsha. I won't read the whole thing, it's quite long, but it's called the Maiche movement. They say, if the parties care about us, why didn't they go to Khayelitsha where there was a big fire disaster? The people in Khayelitsha don't have identity documents since the fire in October until today. How will they vote? The ward councillor does not respond to invitation from community members. A lawyer in Cape Town is stealing money from a man who never work again, which the man received from the government. Okay, there's lots of demands here, but I just wanted to register that there's a group from Khayelitsha that are raising some important concerns, especially about the ability to participate 2 weeks from now in the elections because they lost their identity documents. So, sorry. Sorry, first don't do this, just talk, yeah. The water device. Did you understand the question? Shh. Wait, I'm trying to get it to answer the question. Okay. So when it comes, you can. Yeah. Okay. Shh. Okay, so folks, I'm gonna give all the panelists now a chance to answer again, and I'll come sit down with you in the back, and you can whisper in my ears the question again, so I'll make sure it comes in.
I don't have time to answer them. I can't have someone cut me off in the middle and I haven't answered the question. They rightly need an answer.
Okay, so when it comes to you, use the opportunity to give the answer. Where's the mic at the moment? Let's start with BLF first, please.
Yeah. I want to speak to Mr. Lowe there at the back. He's a community activist from my neighborhood in Delft. He talked about education, right, and political parties, but what we think we should do as BLF when we come into power is that with the call for free education, right, decolonize and whatnot, I think we must also include climate consciousness or justice issues in the curriculum itself so that from ECD, our kids know that they should be taking care of this planet, not that when they are in high school or at university, because it shall change and reorientate them in a different way, and that it must be rooted from a black working class perspective, because this is a black country, and so on and so forth. And also I want to answer the question my sister said, why are we not having a woman representative? I'm the best candidate, and there are women and they are very capable, but for this debate for today, we felt like it was necessary for me to do this. And what was the other? I just forgot the other question.
No, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On the question of living in Suba, I'm really shocked that we are not using the Bill of Rights to the extent that we should. Hardly anyone is talking about the Bill of Rights, and yet that is something that you can enforce. Secondly, the floods. In Khayelitsha is built on a floodplain, and there are so many people who are now building houses where if we get a major flood, hundreds if not thousands of people are going to be casualties. As far as Koeberg is concerned, let me tell you this. All nuclear plants of the same type are supposed to be maintained in the same time period. But Koeberg is not able to do that because it hasn't got the money, which means that it poses an enormous risk to all those who are living in Cape Town. As far as Philippi is concerned, I think you might like to know that Philippi is the only agricultural, horticultural area in South Africa where you can have 3 crops per annum. If it goes, I tell you what, food security will go with it. Now, one more thing. on the maths issue, I have a motion at the moment in front of the council regarding a maths and science techno park. If that comes about, we will achieve miracles in making Cape Town the city of mathematics and science. So just hope that the DA supports it and we can put that on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Aren't you, wait, Ma, I saw your hand. We will come to you at the question time, okay? So just on a lighter note, Farouk, aren't you impressed with how many motions and so on this guy is bringing in the city council? I think he must get a prize for the largest number of motions that he's tabled.
Kumi, may I say to you, when I was an MP, I held the world record for asking the most number of questions.
We are not surprised.
Yeah,
we are not surprised.
They also called me Mr. Motion there. I pass a lot of motion, but not of the sewage type.
Thank you. Please, Jeremy.
Regarding the replacement or the ending of Kuberg, we first have to generate the energy elsewhere, and I believe it can happen at every sewage works in the Western Cape. Once we have generated the megawatts or gigawatts that Kuberg produces, we can immediately begin decommissioning. I don't know how long it takes to decommission a nuclear power station, but one could consider it to, let's say, 10 years, and any time after that is dragging our heels. Any time before that, we can pat ourselves on the back. Regarding education, I think that the general ethos in our national government is one of general apathy towards education, and I do think that every child, no matter their cultural background, has the potential to be a top scientist and mathematician and artist and farmer. So we have to not just think only of mathematics and electronics, but we must also understand that agriculture should also be in education from day one, right to matric. There used to be great technical skills, woodwork and metalwork in schools. Where is that now? We need to see that coming back into education. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Kumi. Just in terms
Sorry, please, folks.
Just in terms of the food gardens and talking about Masipumalele and Ocean View, ma'am, I'm aware that Justin is running a food garden there, but if you are interested, my Department of Agriculture, if you come to me afterwards, I will get your details and get them to help you set up a food garden if you've got the space. So that's not a problem. Can I just answer the question on the PHA? I mean, I played a very big role in preserving, in fighting for the rights of the PHA in Parliament, in the Portfolio Committee. Today we have got the PHA declared, and it's outside of the court case because that area was already, that development request had already been in. So there's a law, there's a legislative process that follows. But the area outside of that is fully now declared an agricultural area. We fully support that no urban housing be put on the agricultural area, and we understand it is a refilling of the aquifer. So I absolutely am not fighting you on the PHA. I support you 100%. Then in Kuberg will be decommissioned. There was an upgrade to Kuberg. It should have actually been decommissioned in 2 years' time, but it was upgraded to 2044. It contributes to 4% of the power capacity, and the responsibility of decommissioning Kuberg is with Eskom. And the problem is that the decommissioning will cost Eskom about 76 billion rand. I wonder where Eskom is going to find that. In terms of biomass, biomass is still a little bit more expensive than solar energy at this stage, but I believe that biomass could definitely be used in agriculture. In terms of the ID, if there's lost IDs, you have an absolute right to get a free ID before the elections, and there should be no reason why you cannot go to Home Affairs and get that ID document. And on the day of elections, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, which are special votes for the first 2 days, you can go to the Department of Home Affairs and get an immediate temporary ID, and you can vote. There is no reason. Your absolute rights to have an identity document is enshrined in the Constitution. Then in terms of the water devices, sir, the water devices are not obviously not just left to what you call black people in communities. That's absolutely not true. Water devices were, at the time of the water crisis, from what I understand, put onto every household that were very high usage. You will see that in some of the very affluent, wait, can I finish?
Sorry,
That in the
you asked,
Let
so
me-
let me, can I ask you to, everybody just hang on a second, right? If you ask a question, right, and the person does not answer it, right? For example, I'm trying to get her to answer it and let them answer it. But you have a choice. If you don't get the answer, this is the good news. If you don't get the answer that you want, it's helping you to decide who to vote for. So don't panic. Don't panic. Just listen. If it's not an answer, then you have a choice. You go to somewhere else. Please finish.
But I understand.
But your time is also getting tight.
Yes,
eh?
I understand that the water devices are problematic and we are busy investigating. So I fully hear you. There is a problem with the water devices. And finally, and last but not least, we are expecting flash floods. With every drought, ladies and gentlemen, there are flash floods that happen afterwards. The question we must ask ourselves, have we removed the sand out of the canals so that we don't have floods affecting people's lives? We will have flash floods after the 6-year drought, and we must, as government, make sure that we mitigate the risk to that. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. So before, folks, no point putting up your hands now. You know why? Because there's 3 more to still speak. Okay? Shh. Okay, so my brother, please, I'm trying to keep a conversation going, okay? So please, let the others answer now, okay? Okay. Shh. Can I ask? Okay, sorry. Folks, can I just ask you to just cool it down for a second? And I want to just make a comment to spice up the debate a little bit, and then I'm going to go to the Green Party. I think to the DA representative, I just want to say, I think it's correct that we acknowledge that the Constitution guarantees the rights as you've done. But the problem is that the history of exclusion has meant that there are people who are struggling to find a bus fare to go to the home affairs to do their work. They have problems with literacy, right? That many of our people have been, we must always remind ourselves that the most powerful single sentence on apartheid policy was about education. Let me remind you. Vervoet once said, blacks should never be shown the greener pastures of education. They should know that their station in life, their role in life is to be hewers of water and carriers, hewers of wood and carriers of water. Basically, Vervoet said, our education policy must make sure that all that black people do is chop trees and carry water. Right? And that legacy of exclusion is not going to be wiped out in 25 years. It's still there. So therefore, while I think the DA is absolutely right that the Constitution provides all of this, we must be clear that there are many things in our Constitution that are being ignored left, right, and center. Because our people don't have the government is not invested in education to ensure that our people can participate in public debates from an educated, informed perspective. And education being denied by Vervoet and the apartheid regime was done very consciously because they knew that that would be a punch to the solar plexus of the black community. So let's just be very clear that while the Constitution allows certain things, sadly many people are not able to access those benefits, and we need to have some sensitivity to that reality. Green Party.
Wow, okay, so there's quite a lot of questions covering quite a lot of kind of topics. I think everybody here that's contributing, or a political party that's having their say, actually a lot of them have some fairly viable ideas and concepts, and it's not necessarily that one person talks over another person when it's the same idea. So to give you an example of this, when we were going through our first kind of bouts of load shedding a couple of years back, we actually brought a proposal to the city of Cape Town to utilize the sewage refineries' methane kind of outlets, gas, and feed it into the biogas generators to keep the city powering. And concepts like this are extremely viable, and very much doable. And a while back, I had a discussion with Black First, Land First guy, and he said something that I really liked. And he said something that water is a human right. And I completely agree with this. It echoes completely with me. The problem is when you don't actually have access to water. So you have to start by first cleaning your water supply. Someone mentioned, floodplains. One of the problems that they have is that they've actually allowed RDP development inside of rainwater catchments. So that's pretty much what happens. That's why you have flooding. I'm going to get you one day.
Thank you, Farouk.
Okay, the fundamental problem is that the commanding heights, if you want to produce food, the land is in the hands of 35,000 large commercial farms who produce 99% of our food. And that means that if you want to feed the masses, we've got to expropriate those farms. You know, you can and put it under the control of workers, which is something that other people don't talk about, you see. Now, when you're talking about the Philippi horticultural area, there is currently a court case where Alan Windy and his crew has entered the court as in support of the developer. Is the DA saying here that they are going to withdraw that? They must declare it now and write a letter immediately. So, we're saying that's what we meant by a needs-based economy. 100% of the budget would go towards climate accommodation and saving the earth and saving the people because it's people-centered. Now, if you look at the whole concept of, anyway, my time is up, okay.
Thank you so much, Shahid. Faith?
Thanks, Chair. Let me start with the idea. I think if I can just get the details, then we can see how we can support that family that was ravaged by the informal settlement fire. I think it's important that government comes to our people. So the IDs, if I can get details, we'll try to facilitate the IDs for that community. Let me speak to Comrade Sharon. I think Comrade Sharon's issue is real. The socio-economic justice around land and poverty and swagre or Cape Flats must be dealt side by side by the environmental issues. I think the sad reality is here in the Western Cape, we haven't spent our urban settlement grant to the tune of 2.1 billion rand. It's a travesty against the poor, where those money that was allocated or meant for informal settlements and backyards have not been spent and have been returned. That's what the DA government is doing, that they haven't really spent the money. Their focus, by and large, is to look at private development and private and gentrification in the city center. On the bread, I think it's quite correct that you have still big competition, monopoly capital. We fought the bread cartels, and we need to ensure that the monopolies get broken down.
Okay. Thank you, Faiz. So let's give them a round of applause for sticking to time. So I'm coming back to you now. My sister there, can she get the mic, please? Okay, you start there, and the second one. Where's the other mic? Oh. Go ahead. Shh, go ahead. By the way, let me just tell you something, right? I am consciously privileging young people here because this fight is about young people's futures. Some of us who are making policies, we will be dead and gone when the shit hits the fan. By the way, I'm so impressed that everybody's talking about shit. Right? And by the way, whenever they say methane, right, or some words, just remember, those of you who are students especially, go read up about methane, because methane is also a greenhouse gas, which is worse than carbon, but it has the potential, when it's in our shit, to be used for positive purposes. Over to you.
Okay, right. So what I have to say is, I was actually, I wouldn't say delighted, but then I'm glad that she mentioned that there would be no jobs without skills. And I'm actually kind of glad that he mentioned that Cape Town will be a city of science and maths and so forth, because I come from a maths and science focused school. But then what they fail to understand, or rather forget, is not each and every child is intellectual. Not each and every child is going to sit in a desk and study maths, business, and accounting. Not each and every child is going to study physics and sciences. Hence, they're forgetting that they also have skilled children, which they kind of ignore. And they're failing to educate our societies about skilled children. Hence, there are less or no school skills other that exist, which is why they tend to turn their backs on skillful children, which is why children, they drop out of school. It's not because they want to, but it's because they can't, because not each and every child is going to be intellectual. So my question is to everybody on the panels that when are we going to start building and focusing on skill-focused skills? Because they do not exist in our societies right now. Thank you very much.
Whoa! Whoa! Okay, before I take the next question, where do I pick? Where do I? Wait, this lady there. So no, just hang on, ma'am. She's gonna go. Then I'm coming to you. But let me just say to the young woman that just spoke, where is she? I think most people in this room are gonna agree with the statement I'm about to make. Please start planning your bid to become the president of South Africa. We will all campaign for you. And start early as you have. Please. Sorry. The mic is off. The mic.
Hi everyone. I'm sorry for my broken English because English is not my mother tongue. So I've got two questions for DA. I'm the waste speaker, do recycling. Since 1997, I'm not working, and I've got children. I send them to school. Either they pass matric, either they pass degree, either they pass diploma, but they are not working. Us as the waste speakers, we have got we've got two memorandums to go to town, to City of Cape Town. We send our first memorandum to provincial government, but they didn't reply us. And we take another one to the local government. Local government said they didn't take our memorandum. They said go straight to provincial government. So we are the old people. We go up and down to that, because we need a land, or we need a temporal land, because recycling is our job, because we create the job for us, because we are not working. The second question is, I'm staying in a shack, but I owe 37,000 of water. And my mother stay at Little Park. My mother stay 90-something, but she bought the bonds, maybe 70,000, but she owe 99,000 for the water. We haven't got farm in our area, and we haven't got gardens. I want to ask our government, our government, where did we get that money to pay the water?
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. To this young man here, thanks.
I want to know.
Please, keep it close to your mouth.
What I want to know is why the Green Party representative has an empty can of Coke in front of him.
Sorry, say that again?
I want to know why the Green Party representative has an empty can of Coke in front of him.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Okay. Good question. You get that? Yes, please. Right? And can you pass the mic to the person behind you? Please. Shh. Folks, listen. there's a good chance, there's a really good chance that everybody who wants to ask a question will get a chance. I'm really trying hard, okay? So work with me, right? And just keep the noise down when people are talking. Please go for it.
Hi everyone. I will talk about the Kylie chart, that SST, where there's a problem about the ID. I'm not happy with the answer because we're sending memorandum after memorandum in town. There is no answer. We follow all of the procedure. You cannot go to Home Affairs with no money. You must pay for your ID. We all know that thing. So she's telling us to go to Home Affairs to come and make our IDs. We cannot do that. Government is making a promise out that they're going to make IDs for that people. But now we are trying to get hold of the councillor, try to get hold of the DA government. No one answer us now. That guy is giving us a promise that if we see him now, he's going to follow the matter and try to do something about that. That's giving a hope to the people. So for us that we stay in the community, we don't know what to say about voting and what, because when we wanted to vote, DA, he was there on that day. I can't remember what was her name. Said, guys, we're going to give you guys 1,700. They changed that. They said they're going to make us a soup kitchen. They changed that. They said they're going to give us a voucher of 700 rand. So they're playing around with us. Each and every political party. I'm not saying that which one is better, but now, please, guys, go to SST in town to try to resolve the problem. That's why we're voting you for before the votes. I'm not going to say when you can go anytime and see the water problem. Since that fire, we don't have water. You can go anytime. Since that fire, we don't have water. We must run into other location to get water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amanda. I'm from an organization called Bishop Lavis Action Community.
Okay, just one second. Just one second. Let me ask somebody now. You got your hand up. What organization she's from? What organization she's from? You don't know? Okay, everybody stay quiet now. Introduce yourself again.
My name is Amanda from the Bishop Lavis Action Community. I have two questions for the DA specifically. Firstly, we are working in our community. The pensioners mostly come to our offices with huge water bills. Now, they keep on saying they are going to investigate. We know the water meters are faulty. So do something about it, because people are ending up in hospital because they worry about the money they need to pay. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, you made billions with the water crisis from the poor people. So what are you actually doing with that money? Is any of that money going towards making Cape Town green? Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Mncedi Simchuza from Kuguletu. I'm representing Economic Freedom Fighters. Right, first of all, I can answer your question from DA. The money that is left, they're taking to the states to make their families to grow that side, first of all. Leaders. Secondly.
Sorry. Please.
Secondly, the ANC and the DA, they know where do they get the fundings. They are together. If the ANC can say to the DA, you are wrong there and there, the DA will say, but you also, the ANC, we are together in this money.
Okay, sir.
All right. The last question is, the DA, do not play with our minds here. The DA, it's not the Democratic Alliance. It is the National Party. Let's not forget, guys. Let's not forget, guys. In our olden days, our mother and fathers, they can't go outside without a pass. Due to regardless the fact of the DA,
okay,
they are the ones.
Sorry, thank you, sir.
They are playing with our minds, leaders.
Okay.
So therefore, do not play with our minds, DA. Don't tell us that there will be some jobs.
Thank you.
Okay, for your argument's sake, I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you.
Viva!
Thank you. Okay. Can you? Sorry. Please. Shh. There's another question here. There's another round. Please. Okay, there's a question. You are noted. You are noted. You'll get a chance. Please.
I am Bino from the Green Anglicans. Now,
Sorry, wait, 1 second. Anybody heard which organization is from? Okay, shh. Introduce yourself again.
Bino from Green Anglicans.
Green Anglicans. Imagine that. Green Anglicans. Take it seriously. Listen to them.
Now, first of all, to the convener, let's not do the opposite of what we're here for. We are saying we are protecting the earth, but we've got so many plastic bottles where else we can pour water from the tap and use glasses. So please, let's not do that again. Now, to the ANC and DA, because you've got municipalities that you are running, as we go around, especially all of South Africa, we encourage people to stop illegal dumping. But there's illegal dumping in our communities because that is where our children play due to safety reasons of playing far away from home. Now, the root cause is that the municipality is not coming to collect the garbage. So the only way they can dispose of this is throwing it in a central place where no one taking it away from their families. Now, what are you doing to these MMCs who are in charge of collecting this rubbish? How are you disciplining them? Because they are not doing justice to our people, and children are getting sick because that is where needles are and all of this stuff that comes from our homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'll come next round. Okay. Short. We're taking that last question and then I'm coming round for a second round, okay? Okay, please.
Okay. Okay, I just want to the DA. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. I heard you mention to the lady that you will assist her in the community garden project. I have one also in SST, where the complaints are, where I also want to start one. So I would like to acknowledge that. I would like to meet with you. Okay. So this debate that we are here today is a very difficult debate. And for most of us who maybe did not do life sciences or physics in school, we are lost, okay? But then, yes, what I want to say is that the government needs to step in now, not tomorrow or next day or after the elections, today, because the climate change is not going anywhere. So what needs to happen is that government does not also focus on the people, especially in rural areas, who, yes, I may not have a university degree, but I have started a profitable business by myself. So what the problem is that the government does not support entrepreneurs in rural areas. They support entrepreneurs in towns. But they don't know that we are the ones who know the problems that are actually happening in the rural areas as entrepreneurs. That's why we decide to start our own businesses and hire people in the communities. But we do not get funding from the government. We go to IDC to ask funding so that we can hire people to clean the wetlands. There's a Kailicha wetland the boy mentioned. There is one in Kailicha and SST. It's dirty. It's dirty. We want to hire community members to go together collectively and we go clean that wetland because it's ours and we're saving it for the future. But the government does not want to hear our cries. So I believe that the government is not doing enough. The ward councillors or the community members that are there, they are not doing enough.
Okay. Thank you very much. So folks, just hang on. What I'm gonna do is, with the permission of the panel, I realize there's been lots of questions. Just so we get everybody to have a chance, I'm gonna allow 3 from the side, 3 from that side, and then we give you 2 minutes each to respond, okay? So there's a gentleman here who has had his hand up, and then, where? I'll come to you and then I'll come to you. Please, go ahead.
My name is Samuel Ondelana, and also please, man, never mind my English, ne? It won't be good enough. I want to speak on behalf of the poor about our health system. Our health system in our township is very poor. So, I want to ask first the ANC, when are you planning to implement our national health insurance? And the opposition parties, there's a question that I want to ask. If one of you can be in charge, how long will it take you to implement the NHI? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please. Okay.
Yeah. Good evening. Yeah.
Disa.
1, 2, it's on, yes. My name is Wendy Pakir and I'm from Elsenburg. It's on the outskirts of Stellenbosch. I think my question is maybe both to the DA and the ANC because it's about land and our land rights. In Stellenbosch, for instance, there's been 99-year leases to farmers, and I think maybe it's happening all over the world, where farmers almost pay next to nothing for the land that they are leasing from the municipalities. And I think the same goes for the Gulf estates, where there's so many landless people, and we need land for subsistence farming. Because currently, our food, the food that we eat is not good. There's lots of GMOs in it. Pesticides has been used on farms. Very few organic farmers are producing organic food, but it's too expensive. People cannot afford it. So I want to know, what are your views on yeah, I mean, we've been speaking about expropriation and all of that. I mean, we've been asking for land for a long time. We have to plant now at schools because we're not getting land. So your views on expropriation and also on the issue of the food that we eat and subsistence farming. There's a lot of support to commercial farmers, but very little support to subsistence farmers to enhance our own food securities. And then the second question is on Koeberg, and I want to let on what Liz was saying.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah, we were speaking
Please,
about...
sorry, just one second.
Sorry, yeah.
Please give attention. We are
Yeah.
almost done. If you think you're having a tough job being in the audience,
Yes.
I just want to show you I'm having a really tough job being here, trying to hold the whole thing together, okay? So work with me, okay? Just listen.
Yeah.
Finish.
Yeah, sorry, just on the land thing, because we want land, and the farmers are killing the land. They overfarm, they use lots of pesticides, and there's a lot of pollution there, so it also contributes to climate change. So we need to invest more in subsistence farming. On the issue of Koeberg, a lot of high-level nuclear waste is stored at Koeberg without Eskom having a clear plan in terms of how to deal with it. If there's a crisis now or a storm hits or something happens, Koeberg is very close to Cape Town. So what's going to happen? Not only to remove people from Atlantis and close by, but there's going to be a disaster if that happens. Decommissioning in 2044, it's really late. We need to put clear plans in action. I've seen a video of a Koeberg plant that leaked, where there was concrete built around the plant, but the nuclear waste, it actually eat through the concrete that was around it, and that actually show how toxic it is to human beings. And now we're dumping low-level waste in foul pits in the Northern Cape, where it's already dry, with little water and so forth. So I'm very happy to hear that nobody spoke about fracking and nuclear, because we know if we want to frack or build nuclear plants, we need lots of water, and fracking in the Karoo is not an option because there's no water. People are starving, there's no water. Nuclear is not an option, not in the Northern Cape, not in the Eastern Cape, not in the Western Cape. We don't want nuclear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Amanda. Molweni maqabane ndingisiziwe Dunjana andifuni ube ndisithi uxolo ngesilungu andifuni ube ndisithi sorry ngesilungu esirongo but ndizathetha ulwimi lam abangayazi abangandivanga ndizabaguqulela ndifuna uza kumama lo mhlophe lo we-DA mama uthi xa ngabana ulahlekelwe yi-ID okanye i-ID yakho itshile uyakwazi uyokwenzelwa enye i-ID ngaphandle kwemali. Ndikuxelele mama ndinqona ukuthi uyaxoka wena mama ngohamba nabantu batshelwe zii-ID wena mntu unegunya uphethe iWestern Cape uyothi kwa-Home Affairs mababenzele ii-IDs wena mntu uthi bayakwazi uzenza. Ndize kulaa tata weCope ebesithi into yobana abantu baseKhayelitsha bahlele ezindaweni ezinamanzi. Nicinga uthini ngaba abantu bahlele ezindaweni ezinamanzi? Kungenxa yobani nje abantu beyohlala ezindaweni ezinamanzi? Kungenxa ye-DA le ithi abantu xa bethatha imihlaba emihle beyibona uba mihle ithumele u-anti-land invasion no-law enforcement uba mabahambe bodubula abantu bababulala. Ndize kule ndawo le yamanzi. Uthela mama we-DA into yobana into yamanzi basayixoxa bazayixoxa kude kube nini because asizuvota. Ngokuba kaloku thina kuthiwa nge-30 sicinyelwa amanzi. Sizasela ntoni, sizatya ntoni, sizaphila ngantoni bona behlele ezindlini zabo bebesivalele bebethenze basifakele iwater meter. Sitheni ngathi sizizinja apha emhlabeni sizawucinyisa ibalelo amanzi esiwasebenzisa ngemini thina phofu bona ba-free usebenzisa amanzi. Enkosi.
Thank you. Thanks. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lucky, and I'm from West Bank in Kells River.
I'm afraid because we have lost some time by not listening, I don't think we can accommodate many people. So I'm going to ask those that are going to get the mic now to please be brief. And those that are listening, please don't make noise so that I can try and squeeze in more people, okay? Please be brief and please listen. Go ahead.
My name is Lucky, and I'm from West Bank. The thing is, I hear you people, I'm talking about visiting places and making climate change aware, people aware of climate change. But in West Bank, the thing is, we have a dump site there. It's written no dumping. But whenever you go there, you'll see lots of dump there. And on my street, there's water running out there, water and papers there. And the only people who are cleaning there is me and my friend over there. The people from the municipality drive through there. All they ever said to us that we're wasting our time cleaning that place. And we are not employed, but we try our level best to clean that place. So what is it that you're doing? Because we don't know, because we are unemployed, but we are doing what the people who are employed are supposed to do.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me? Oh yeah, my name.
Please, ma.
My name is Joyce Malebu. I'm staying in Guguletu. I'm a backyard dweller, Guguletu backyarders, and I'm also in the health sector. I'm a committee of Guguletu Health Forum. I'm staying in a backyard for 28 years. And I'm very old. I'm also pensioner, but I'm staying in a backyard. Point number one, I was in Zelleran Heights today in the backyard dwellers there. On my way to that community, I saw people cleaning the dams in the white area. They are cleaning dams. But when you are in the communities, in the black and the colored communities, there's a lot of rubbish into the dams, thrown into the dams. My question is to direct to the DA. Dalal was on Monday, she was on TV. She was in the DA and she was protecting the DA. All the dirty stuff that happened in the DA, she threw it out in the air that everyone in South Africa must know what the DA is protecting. The DA is protecting the white people. That's what she said to us. Now it's election time. You want our votes. 28 years in a backyard. What do you think? Huh? You will never find a white person staying in a backyard for that so long. Here are the people. Huh? We are in danger. People, we must stand up and we must fight.
Thank you. Okay, we have one last question here and then we turn to the panel. Please.
Hello, my name's Judy Saul. I'm from the Green Party of South Africa. I film all the climate change conferences since 2007, and I really know what is happening. And one of the big problems that we've got right now, apart from climate change, is that the sea is running out of oxygen. There's been a 30-year study that was released in 2016. And when the sea runs out of oxygen, there'll be no fish or any living thing, but it'll be worse than that, because the reason the sea is running out of oxygen is because the phytoplankton that make the oxygen in the sea, they are dying because of the carbonic acid, they are dying because of the increased heat. But the problem is they also make our oxygen. We are not, they might like to think that we've got till 2030 before it's going to get bad. But we have to take action right now if we're going to stop this thing happening. And we know what to do. I have been interviewing experts from all the different forests and polar and soils and agricultural experts, and we know what to do. You need a green voice in Parliament for that reason. But I want to know what the other parties, what are you going to do about these things? What have you got, anything that can address this extreme danger that is heading towards us now, apart from the fact that we're running out of insects too, only 15% of flying insects left. All of these things are all coming together to have a big disaster. We've got small disasters that we're all dealing with, but this is very big.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to allow 2 more questions. You had your hand up for some time. Oh, so you've been holding up your hand for somebody else. It's very confusing. Please. And then there's the last question right at the back there. Please. Please.
Ocean View. I'm standing here not as the first indigenous people. We are indigenous people, all of us. What's happening with the DA government, with all governance, is bad governance. We don't just regard us the First Nation. We are all the First Nations. If you look on your money, it says a diverse people unite. Why aren't we uniting? If you look at the extinction, we are going extinct. What are you going to do about it?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, there's a comrade from all the way from Joburg, Landosa. Where's it? You? Okay, we give him a chance since he came all the way from Joburg, okay? And then I come back there, and then we go to the panel.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. I thought I wasn't gonna ask a question because this question has already been asked, and unfortunately, I didn't get an answer from any of the panelists on this matter. The question on just transition. The fact is that you cannot have one or either of the two. We need economic development, and we also need to protect the environment at the same time. We know that your promises will be based on better economic development. So maybe that's the reason why climate change does not come out clearly. It's not in the mainstream on any of your manifestos. What we really need here is that you give us answers as to what are you going to do in terms of just transition. You see, because we really need our environment protected in as much as we need economic development.
Thank you. Folks, I'm sorry that we are going to run out of time. I'm going to take the last question, but just before we go, the question that's on the floor at the moment is one of the most important questions, right? Maybe the term is not clearly understood, where we talk about a just transition, right? Basically, we know that we have to change from an economy that's driven by dirty, brown, fossil fuel-based energy to an economy that's driven by clean, green, renewable-based energy. However, the question is, the people who work in the oil, coal, and gas industry, the workers in those industry, our brothers and sisters, our mothers and fathers, and they should not be punished for the policy choices that governments have made over a long time. So while we need to make the change and the transition to clean energy, we're saying it must be a just transition. That is, that the workers that work in those industries should be trained for new jobs in a clean, inclusive, green economy, that those that are close to retirement age should be justly provided with proper retirement and so on. So that's what we're saying. And we want to often say in the environmental movement and the social justice movements more generally, this thing that our politicians put before us, oh, it's jobs versus the environment or the jobs versus climate, is something we must actually reject fully, right? It's a false choice. And let me just say to all the political parties here, my question to you, right? This is a time for tough choices. Political leadership is about making informed choices, balancing different interests, but true leadership is about also being willing to speak the truth to people, to not lie to them, not give them half-baked solutions that are made out to be solutions and so on. And therefore, the question is, how do you balance the fact that we got 10 years, what the scientists are saying, we got 10 years to get emissions to peak and coming down. We are so far away from that. We need massive revolutionary change quickly, right? So when you have that, and on the one hand, and then we know that coal kills on the other, right? My question to you is, what is the fastest timeline will your party adopt to the phasing out of coal? Give us a date. We recognize it can't be done overnight. We recognize it cannot be done overnight. We need a just transition. We need to plan it properly and so on. However, what's the point of saying we need to keep jobs going now and that kills all of us in the future? So that's the question. And let me just say on a lighter note, how many of you saw that movie called Back to the Future? Just put up your hands. Let me see whether it's worth. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's about somebody who goes into a machine and goes back 40 years. And so there's a meme I saw on WhatsApp which has the two actors coming in 2045, and then they go into 2045 and they come back to the present and they say, that professor guy says, "Hey, you won't believe it. They're still building Medupi and Kusile. They haven't finished it yet." So folks, last question to the gentleman, and then we go to the panel for closing comments. Please.
Okay. Good evening to everyone that is inside the house. I'm sorry that I got this mic later on, but please, I hope that you'll understand. I have questions, but I'll minimize them because you're crying all the time. Okay. My first question is, DA, earlier on this conversation here, I heard a nice words here which I never heard in Khayelitsha. Expropriation of land without compensation. Wow. That's a nice word. I never heard them in Khayelitsha. Now, sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt the house, please. So, my question to you, DA, what is your input on that initiative? Is there any input that you have? So I would like you to answer me on that. The reason why this question is directly to DA. Sorry, sir, please allow me in seconds, please. Reason why this question is directly to DA. I'm from Khayelitsha at S section. If here we are honest with ourselves, if you go to TR section, that section, it's a wetland as a whole. If you go to UT, TT, VT, you go to ST, these areas are separate, but all of them are wetlands, and nobody takes care of them. And the reason why, it's because of the blacks that are there, it's the poor that are there. If you go to Delft, Guguletu, if you travel through N2, passing Guguletu, there's a place there is called Europe and NY5. If you travel there, it's embarrassing that you will see a black person or black people showing their asses out of the cars. That is embarrassing. There's no dignity there. If you get inside those informal settlements, what you will get there, you see now it's dark. If I want to help myself, I have family with children. Now if I want to help myself, I need to go outside and grab pota. I'm not sure if you know pota. I had to go and grab pota. And I live in a one-room shack. So my family there, I'm not sure if this thing is still working. Is it working?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But you have 1 minute more. One sentence more, please. Finish.
Okay, one sentence. So if I want to help myself, so my children with my wife, they have to hide themselves with the blanket so that they can see what am I doing. But the smell they can hear. Lastly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, my brother. I gave you a chance. Thank you.
Please, one.
Sorry.
Sorry.
One. Sorry, I have to be fair.
Lastly. No. Listen, people. I have to be professional. I have to ask because that guy there is doing a great job. So, lastly, what I want to say, it's us who are being affected with this climate change. The poor in shacks. You understand? When it's raining, it's us. DA will come, issue blankets, Vedinga blankets, that it don't get even there on the feet. It only ends here. And the soup. We are tired of that. Now please answer that.
Okay, so, wow. So folks, I just want to make a quick observation. I think it's amazing that even though we've had our chaotic moments, that we're all here together, we're all human beings, we're all having a conversation. So before I go to the panel for the closing comments, can I ask you to give yourselves a round of applause for being a great audience? Okay? And so before I go to them, I want to make I'm going to abuse the floor to make one argument or one observation that I have not heard much of in the conversation. South Africans must remind themselves that we are part of a great continent called Africa. We have had this whole conversation, right, about how we deal with the situation in South Africa with no reference to the fact that South Africa is the 12th largest emitter. We have also contributed to the impacts that we see elsewhere in Africa. So therefore, I want to make an appeal to all the political parties here. We would like to ask you to reflect on whether one country in Africa can solve all of its problems without having greater social, economic, and political integration with our brothers and sisters elsewhere on the continent. I believe that one of the worst, embarrassing, horrific things about post-apartheid South Africa is the fact that the countries where people supported our liberation struggle came from, where we lived, where the apartheid state bombed us, where we intermarried with people from all over the countries where we were, and today the way we treat people from other parts of Africa makes me ashamed to be a South African. And we all should be ashamed of that. So, to make my point even more clear, I'm going to ask you to sing a song with just 2 words in it. Pambili, Africa. Okay? I don't sing very well, but I'll kickstart it, okay? Pambili, 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 Africa. Pambili, 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 Africa. You all can do better than that. One more time. Pambili, 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 Africa. Pambili, 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 Pambili Africa. Thank you. Okay, so I want to say a big thank you to the representatives of all the political parties for your patience. I hope you don't mind that I privilege the audience. What I want to do now is to give each of you 2 minutes to make your closing comments, and you can respond to those questions that you feel were most directed at you. So let me start on the extreme right, BLF. And I just want to remind the political party representatives that our two colleagues are still there in the front watching time, okay?
Yes. Oh, how much time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say, as the PLF, we propose, right, we have a policy proposition. We propose that every public servant who assumes office next year in the 6th Parliament must take what we refer to as the Sankara Oath, where we say we must follow the beautiful example of Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. Public servants must use public services. They must not go to private while we are wallowing in Kailicha, they're dying in the public hospitals. Are these comrades willing to take that, to say we want to be accountable and not use the ministerial handbook and abuse all these resources, but live a very humble life like Thomas Sankara? Secondly, I want to say the EFF brother who just came here, my brother, awuyazi into yoba i-EFF nayo ayifuni party political funding ichazwe uba ngobani na omalima eparlament wayekhona nalo tata bayi-opposa loo nto. So all political parties must show their cards and say sifandwa ngubani, because umuntu uthethetha ube kuthethe enye indoda apha enqentsu kuye kanti uyafandwa. So it's very important. Abahlali baseKhayelitsha were coming. We are going to assist as much as we can. We are a small political party. Vote for PLF because it's the only black alternative we can have. It's going to be number 11 on the ballot box. Also on the issue of ITs, the DA comrade here is very economical with the truth. Very, very. I was at Home Affairs today. They have a cut-off number of IDs that they can make on a day. And you are in power, you can intervene. Don't always scapegoat the ANC. You are all bad, both of you. So it can't be a tete-a-tete between ANC and DA. They must take us serious, these people. Yeah, vote for PLF as a Kylie Chamakabane. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So before you go, the main point that was made there is the important point, that all political parties should say where the money is coming from, whether it comes from individuals, whether it comes from Gupta, whether it comes from VBS, whether it comes from Oppenheimer, whether it comes from anybody. Transparency will help our democracy.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Let's begin with this. From 2010, COPE was the first party that publicly declared that political party funding must be declared. We will declare. Number two, you wanted to know where COPE stands. Now this package was given to us. COPE leads every other party in respect of environmental issues. Everyone here has a copy of that. Number three, if we were to get rid of coal, I would say that we in government would get rid of it by 2025 and have a plan. We would ban all petrol and diesel cars by 2030. We would do that. You know that in Europe at the moment, the young people have started the Extinction Rebellion. Greta Thunberg and others, they brought London to a standstill because they want climate changes now, not tomorrow. So we would do that. Your question on the transition, just transition, this is what COPE will do. Restructuring must not happen in a chaotic fashion. It must not negatively impact on workers and poor people. It must be done proactively. The transition towards a climate resilient and low carbon economy must maximize the benefits of climate action and minimize hardship for workers and communities. And sound investments in low emission and job-rich sectors and technologies must be attracted. In our manifesto, we say
we will take 10,000 people from the universities and prepare them thoroughly for the fourth industrial revolution. Because all the jobs that people are talking about, none of those jobs are going to be existing 10 years from now. So we better learn that it's going to be hard work and required skills to be able to negotiate the future. No skills means no jobs. So COPE is going to do just that. And I'm very, very delighted that COPE has, is the #1 leading party from Parliament on the scorecard. If I had known they were going to score it, I would have pushed far more things in our manifesto to make it the, absolute leader in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
Okay, so what are we going to do to make a just transition? We can all start tomorrow. And the way we do that is that the people out there go to plant cannabis immediately. Okay? Because then you are sequestering carbon, and you are getting a multi-purpose crop which will give you nutrition. It has the most healthy seed on earth, and yet we have 6 million children going to bed hungry every night. Okay, this is not a drug, as the propaganda tells you. This is the most nutritious seed on earth. This is the longest and strongest fiber from a plant on earth. All the sails of the British Navy and Van Riebeck's ships was made of cannabis. Okay, so we can have a manufacturing economy which is clean and green. We can have a tourism which uses the spiritual aspects of the plant for people to come to here and bring their dollars and experience our cannabis. Okay, so what I'm asking you, this is the technology that solves the entire climate change and survival of the human race issue. So besides planting your cannabis and sequestering carbon from tomorrow onwards, I also want to ask you to be able to think of the resource in the future that your child might use to grow their future in terms of nutrition, manufacturing, housing, textiles, clean energy, medicine, and decide if you want them to be prosecuted for cultivating or to benefit from this God-given plant. Okay, so we have the solution right here. Please, if you also have this plant moving through your blood right now or later on to this evening, please drop all those old historical affiliations that says, I'm a ANC DA for the rest of my life. We can't do that anymore. Business as usual hasn't worked. So please put the African Democratic Change Party here so that we can grow the solution to the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kumi, I think first of all, a healthy environment is the most important thing in order to have clean energy and clean air. It's critical for creating a one South Africa for all. We cannot have a healthy society without a healthy environment. I think what's very important is that we are leading in 22 municipalities to be able to produce our own solar energy, and 18 of these municipalities can feed back into the grid. We are producing 3,000 direct jobs by 2020 just with our investment into the Atlantis green economy. Secondly, I want to say that just yesterday we received a memorandum from the World Wildlife Fund to actually eradicate single-use plastics. No one's talking enough about that, and this province will eradicate single-use plastics in the next 5 years. I can't touch on all the questions that have been posed to us as a Democratic Alliance. Some of you can come and talk to me afterwards, but certainly to say that this province is green-focused, green economy, green and new economy going forward, which touches on what you're saying, using innovation to make sure we have a healthy society and a healthy environment.
Thank you. Thank you, Beverly.
Sorry, I'd just like to answer your question. You posed a really good question. And I just want to say I just want to say in terms of climate change, you've actually got to split two things. There's global climate change, and then there's sort of restoration of our localized ecosystems that needs to take place. And ironically, in in as violent and terrible as it is, and it is, it's really, really terrible. I wish I had more time, but the actual cure, the job creation, the economy that you're seeking is based around the restoration of the environment. There is so much that you can do, and sorry, in terms of land, we completely agree with unutilized land. In fact, it's part of the Green Party's requirement to recover land and to restore the biomass that is resident in the soil. But you will find that there's so many questions here that we are limited to time in terms of answering them. You never asked me a question. I do want to answer your question, though. And that's all there was, mate. And I like it. So what can I do?
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Shahid?
Yeah, I think the fundamental question is, who are the main polluters? Is it you and I? Or is it the capitalist monopolies? Now, if we want to tackle Shell, Anglo-American, and these companies, they are global companies, number one. Number two, the Bill of Rights protects private property, which protects these monopolies. In other words, you can vote until you're blue in the face, there will be nothing happening. There won't be fundamental change. You can talk in your face about the just transition, but as long as the wealth is in the hands of the monopolies, there won't be fundamental change. This planet is doomed. So, what we are saying in terms of the way forward, Parliament will not deliver our salvation. And therefore, what we need to do, we need to mobilize the working class. Forget about what party affiliation you are. We don't care if you're ANC, DA, or Green Party, or whatever. Let's stand together against the state, against the monopolies. Let's do that. Let's start tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, there is a court case where the DA is interdicting a community in Eindhoven in Delft. They occupied land that has been unoccupied for a number of years. It's fully serviced, but these people are being interdicted by the DA. So we are saying that what we need is, we're calling people to come tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to the High Court. Let us stand together against the state, against those who are denying us the right to decent housing. What we say in terms of housing, we must stop the policy of building ghettos and apartheid structures. We must integrate housing in the middle of the city, all the vacant buildings, the golf courses, the empty hotels should be made available for housing. Is my time up? It's up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. So, Faiz.
Thank you. That's been an amazing audience, and I think from the ANC, we are committed to a non-racial, non-sexist, inclusive and prosperous society. We remain committed, despite all the rhetoric and populism that is here. The party that I represent is true to that. We will remain committed to our people, we will remain committed to our planet, and we'll continue implementing what we need to do. I think if I can deal with some of the issues, in terms of the national health insurance, it's the African National Congress that have passed the bill, and we are busy with piloting the implementation. We're moving away from private health and commodification of private health. Many people will promise, but our fight is a just fight to ensure that we deliver. While other parties can divide us, while other parties can divide it along race, class, gender, and even in environmental justice, the ANC remains committed to working for all our communities, remains committed to dealing with the poverty and the legacies of apartheid, and we're committed to addressing the injustice of our past. Vote for the ANC so that the ANC can continue to support our people and the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, we are almost over, but I want to just ask you to first put your hands together to thank all the representatives that came here today. Okay? Secondly, I want to call two young people to come and stand next to me here. Inga Skosana and Lily Shaw. I want you to say a very, very big thank you to them. We would not have had as many voices in the conversation were they not helping us to keep to time. And I should say that you would have heard of an organization mentioned there on the platform called Extinction Rebellion. And here is one of the representatives. Okay, so let's say a big thank you to them. Thank you. Okay, so now we're almost done. We're almost done. There's please, no. Sorry, please, sir. I want to end now with giving us one provocative thought to take home to all the political parties. And this is a thought from Martin Luther King. Speaking in 1965, he said, "My friends, as I come to the end of my speech, I want to note that in the field of psychology, there's a very dominant term called maladjusted. Now, all of us want to live a well-adjusted life and not suffer from schizophrenia or other mental illnesses." This is all Martin Luther King, by the way, not me. Right? However, he said, there are certain things in our world that are so immoral and unjust that good, decent people should refuse to be well adjusted to. Then he went on to say, "I never intend to adjust myself to religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to racial discrimination. I never intend to adjust myself to the mindless expenditure on weapons when people have no food to eat." And on the economy, he said the most important thing. He said, "I never intend to adjust to economic conditions that will take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few when millions of God's children are smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in an affluent society." So, in a longer version of the speech, he goes on to say, "I now call upon decent women and men around the world to come together to form a new international association to be known as the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment." Right? This is people who are not prepared to accept the status quo. My challenge to all the political parties in our country and all our leaders is that we are being delusional about the scale of change that is needed. We have to recognize that business as usual is not going to get us there. And we have to recognize that we have adjusted. We have adjusted to too many things. Inequality, gender discrimination, and so on. And we appeal to all the political parties to develop a spirit of creative maladjustment. Don't adjust to a broken status quo. Then in conclusion, I want to end with a statement to the political parties about telling lies and not speaking the truth. Now, most South Africans, and not just South Africans, by the way, Americans, Russians, everybody where there's elections, today they have a sense when they go to vote that they're not going to vote for the best political party, they're going to vote for the least worst political party, right? And we want in our country to have political parties that are vibrant, that are diverse. We've got diversity, that's great. Different opinions, that's wonderful, that's a testament to our democracy. But we also want people who have the courage to say that actually we're not going to be able to create 5 million jobs in the next 5 years. Right? Don't say something that you're not going to be able to deliver. And so in this context, I want to end on a light note about when Madiba passed away. When Madiba passed away, he arrives in heaven. Right? Some of you might know that Madiba is a Methodist, right? So when he arrived there in the pearly gates, St. Peter says, President Mandela, what an honor it is to have you. We've been waiting for you. Come, let me give you a specialized tour of heaven. After a few minutes, Madiba asks St. Peter, why are there so many clocks all over the place here? So St. Peter says, you see, you don't know. Huh? For every human being, we have one clock. And whenever they tell a lie, the big hand moves once. So Madiba was very intrigued by this and said, this is very interesting. So St. Peter says, come, I got a special room, I take you. They go to this room, and it's called a high-profile room. So then St. Peter says, you see, there's Mother Teresa's clock. As far as we know, it has never moved at all. There's Madonna's clock. It used to move very fast. It slowed down recently. And after going through a range of people, Madiba says, isn't Donald Trump now one of the most famous people? Shouldn't his clock be here? So St. Peter says, you know, we used to have it here, but right now Jesus has it in his office and he's using it as a ceiling fan. Okay, so to all our politicians, our appeal is, as citizens, we say to you, if things are bad, tell us things are bad. If things are broken, tell us things are broken. And make us your partners as solution providers, because no political party, no government is going to solve the problems of our country without the active participation of civil society. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Comrades,
And the vote of
we
thanks.
say thank you for all the political parties. Thank you very much. We say thank you for Kuminairi, an amazing audience. We say thank you to you. We have proven that we can have a debate on environment without throwing chairs, that we can have a debate with environment where there is not just white people in the room, where we can have a debate with community voices. Thank you and go well. Thank you, go well. Can we have a photo of all the political parties, please? Right? You would like to stand for a photo, please, all the political party. Who you want?
I need a picture.
I want a picture. I want a picture. Shut up. After the picture. Jeremy. Sorry. We need a picture. We need a picture, Bob.